life. We kind of threw everything at the last second here. We kind of, because like I was running late, you were running late, and we're just like, okay, crud, lights, there you go.
All these technical difficulties happen out of nowhere, and it's like, help.
And it's always 5 seconds before you start. It can't be an hour before you start or 2 hours before you start. It has to be like the moment you're going to do something at all technical, that's when everything goes wrong, as you do.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, no, nothing else can ever go wrong otherwise. So, joining me today, who are you again? Have we ever interacted before or talked?
I have no idea who you are, stranger.
First time I met you.
Right?
Like
this is the first time we've talked.
Yeah, I've never known you for years or anything like that at this point.
But hi to those who are new here. I am Kyla T. I make videos. I am a friend of Ant's. Despite our conversation, you might be shocked to know, but we've known each other for a while.
Indeed. And I will be making a note of this in the community. By the way, I will be joining Kyla on a stream later this week, so keep your eyes out for that. I will mention this again in case you're joining in late, by the way. So, I will make note of this a few times. I'm waiting for a few people to start filtering in. It's not bad. Okay, it's not bad beer, actually. I'm trying this different... I got a bunch of, 6-point, like a variety pack for a party, and, this one is a Pils. I'm not really familiar with Pils as much, because I don't really drink those kinds of beers too often, but it's not bad. It's very light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not my kind usually. I usually go for the IPA, something like that. We're getting a happy Pride Month in chat, so...
Yes, happy Pride to the LGBTQA community.
I've never thought I've heard someone say that, actually starts pronouncing that, but that would be how it sounds.
I got that from a TikTok years ago from a teacher who was exposing my woke teacher. And it was just pointing at stuff and pointing at a rainbow border for the bulletin board. It said rainbow supporting the LGBT. Just say that all the time now.
I love it. I love how that sounds. Now I can't unhear that. Now I can't not think of the well, you got to add the letters now. Now it's the go plus.
Right.
Which is
we call it 2.0.
2.0. Version 2.0, one might say.
Right. Yeah.
All right. But no, so now before we get started with discussing comic books and superheroes, which, by the way, I know I said we're going to rank a bunch of superheroes, but we're probably going to do a little more than that, because I threw together one of those tier lists in 5 seconds of the biggest names I could think of off the top of my head, and I've probably missed about 100. So Kyla can see my screen, so I'll bring that over in a second. But Kyla, have you ever read a comic before? I don't know if you've ever actually have any experience with these comic book things.
A comic? No, I do. I've been really
that one up.
Right? Because I know if I keep going on, someone will be like, "Oh, look, she really doesn't read comics." Oh,
as if the back of your wall isn't covered in specialized artwork from artists and stuff.
My artist alley comic wall. Yeah, but I've been reading comics as long as I can remember, back in the days of Archie's Digest, and then moving on from there. I kind of stayed in manga for a while, back when that was really, back in the mid-aughts, when it was really taking off. And I've come back to comics more so indie, and crowd-funded by mainly Iron Circus comics and stuff like that. But
there's a lot of good stuff in Iron Circus. If you haven't read any of the Iron Circus stuff, it's a great well of independently funded, independently it's some great stuff. A lot of great diverse voices there. There's Lackadaisy, isn't that Lackadaisy? Is that the name of the isn't that Iron Circus?
Yeah, they started to there's probably a real deep story there, considering who Lackadaisy used to be under. But I don't know how that would go. But yeah, Iron Circus took over for Lackadaisy, and now they're doing the web series for it, like the animated series. So that's exciting. I'm happy to see him move on to other stuff too.
I'll be honest, that one like animation loop of like the one cat girl dancing to like
Oh
swing
yeah.
jazz, that is like what I have sometimes in the background when I'm like writing scripts, just because it's like such an easy thing to glance back at, and it's just so like jazzy and like excitable. I don't know, it's just cool stuff.
Yeah, she's a great character too, by the way. So
Oh yeah, no. I admit, that's one I'm a little less familiar on in terms of like the greater, because it's like such a huge comic, and like I've seen the first short, but I feel like there's people who are like really into it, and I'm just like casually like, oh, I like the cute cat characters. That's what I got to deep dive into, because I hear it's like excellent.
it is.
All right, looking at a few of the comments. I've been a lifelong comic book. So we have Naruto 85 Razin Shuriken. Great name. I've been a lifelong comic book reader since I first saw Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 in theaters back when I was still in third grade. I'm a couple years older than you. I saw the first one in fourth grade.
Year? I would say, what year did that come out? Where was I?
It was, I think, was that 2004? So I was probably in 6th or 7th grade at that point.
Yeah, it was.
Something like that.
Oh, okay.
Because that was honestly, Spider-Man 2 is, I think, my favorite of the Spider-Man movies. Even though I think Tobey is not my favorite Spider-Man, which I think is controversial. I think he's a good Peter Parker, but I've always said this. I think that like Tom Holland's a good middle ground between the two. But
yeah,
I like Tobey's Peter Parker. I didn't like his Spider-Man. I've always loved Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I'm not huge on his Peter Parker, but like I feel they both hit the nail on different regards. Because for me, Spider-Man has to be like sassy. He has to be he has to be like snarky and like has to have these remarks. And Andrew Garfield got that, but Tobey Maguire had like the comedic timing of like a wet match at times.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, especially now that we've, of course, hindsight. You look back and you're like, yeah, we were still. It's like dang, what's old boy's name? Edward Norton as the Hulk.
Oh yeah.
And then they shelved that for years. It was like, okay, I guess we'll soft launch him in the Avengers. Go on, Mark Ruffalo.
And like Mark Ruffalo, people were like, oh, I don't know about this Mark Ruffalo guy. I don't know, what's he been in? 13 going on 30, Zodiac, and then he turns to be like the best Hulk. I mean, best Bruce Banner, I think by far. And then keep on, we were still going off of like back in the 90s when, oh God, what was that one? Steel with Shaq. Yeah, with like the obvious rubber mask that like whenever he'd like take a step, the whole thing would like wobble back and forth.
Yeah, and then like and of course when you're doing a Shaq movie, you gotta have the basketball. And I remember there being like a bad 3-point shot joke where he had to like shoot something over, and he looked at whoever it was like, I can't make those. It's like
You see, my favorite Shaquille O'Neal performance is when he's in the Hot Wings in that one Hot Wings show, and it's like he's like struggling not to like die from like eating hot wings, and like you can tell he's like trying his best to like hide it, but like he can't keep that up. Like the moment he starts biting into it, like you'll see his eyes like, I'm not even saying I can do better, I'm just saying.
True.
But then you watch like, I don't know, like Audrey Plaza or whatever do it, and she just has like no reaction whatsoever. So
I do remember, although, who was it? Damn, Idris Elba, that one. I think about that a lot.
Oh, yeah. But the thing is, like, I would absolutely be in that situation. That's the problem. I can't make fun of them. like my spouse has, like, trained me to deal with spices better, but, like, I still would be gone if I went to like the extremes that they go into in that show. One time I made some chili with some Carolina Reapers, and that was intense, but
oh God,
that was fun. It was good. It was very good chili, but like, when you cut up a Carolina Reaper, like even cutting it up, like the juices they spray in your eyes.
Oh God.
So like even cutting it, you're crying because like, and I'm not even saying it was like a direct shot up there. It was like just in the air. So I was just like cutting away thin slices of the carrot. I was like, I had to use gloves because even the touching it, like if you touched your eyes afterwards, that's it, you're screwed. But like, I put a few Carolina Reapers in the chili, and one bite was like really, really spicy. And my spouse is just eating it like hand over fist, like not a single reaction. Like, and in fact, she even told me, did you put anything in this? I'm like, you fucking serious?
God Almighty! Yeah, if I can't even like blink in the direction of the pepper, I'm not using it. Oh, hey, Hairs.
Hairs is in chat. Hairs is in chat. Hey, what's up, Hairs?
Said I will not stand for this Bill Bixby Bruce Banner erasure.
In fairness, though, he's pretty good. Just saying. Just saying.
Oh.
All right, but no, Carolyn Reaper's pretty good. Yeah, I'm glad that one guy didn't spell out the word I was afraid he was going to spell out in chat. I'm just looking at chat right now.
I hate picture. That's neat. Hey.
Now, a couple things in chat. Got a couple trolls in there. No big deal. We got a question about Cyber 6. Now, I saw Cyber 6 years ago. I never read the comic. I know there's a comic based on it. I dug that show back in the 90s, but what's up?
I didn't know there was a comic for it. I haven't watched it yet. It's in my watch later playlist. But yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've seen like synopsises of it, non-spoiler ones. So I get the gist of the show, and it seems really interesting.
Well, I just love that Carmen Sandiego cyberpunk aesthetic. I think it's really cool.
True.
Yeah, no, it's something I want to revisit. Like it was, and again, I'm talking like years ago. Like I was like maybe like in middle school, so I'm not gonna trust my memory on it. Alrighty then. Let me see something here. We got right here. What we got? Oh, that's weird. All right, no problem. Okay, cool. So let's get started. So right here we have a bit of a tier list right here. Some people who were guessing we're going to do that. We're going to do a tier we're going to do a tier list. You were correct. I just threw a few different major characters together. Very basic list. This isn't anything too complex. It's not thorough. It's not anything in super depth. Now, what we're going to be discussing. What we're going to be discussing here are a few different Marvel and DC characters, pretty mainstream ones. I threw one extra one in just to see. That's a little unusual. But these are all fairly the characters you expect when you're talking about LGBTQA characters in superhero media. And I definitely missed. Well, damn, where's Loki? I didn't put Loki in here? Okay, well, we'll talk about Loki in a bit. Again, this is not this is more of a guiding factor than, like, actually, like, the specifics of what we're talking about here. But yeah, so Loki, I think we would probably put pretty high up if... Anyway, we're just going to go over a few different characters, discuss them, and kind of rank them. Unfortunately, Loki is not here, but we should probably just talk with him first, get him out of the way, because I threw this together really quickly. Loki. What do you think about that one?
Oh, I would consider him. Let's see. I really want to say A, but depending on like who the writer is, they really don't like stepping into that territory sometimes. So I'll go to B just because.
You see, I'm gonna fight you on this one. I'm gonna put him in A, and here's my reasoning why. Because you got Loki. Loki has both, the pansexual element where he'll just be with anything and anyone, and because he's a shapeshifter, he has the gender fluidity of it all.
Right.
I do think, though, what keeps him from being an S is how the Loki show dealt with it. The Loki show, I think...
That's kind of what I was...
Yeah, because the Loki show, it's like... Because the show Loki, it's like you start off and you think, oh, it's... you're gonna be like getting into this this whole. You're gonna go into details with it. You're gonna go into the whole. You're gonna start focusing in on him being this gender fluid character, him having relationships, and what ends up happening is nothing. He just sort of shows up, says a few things, mentions, kind of both in some ways, and that's the queer, that's your queer rep. A little, a shrug, a wink of the eye, and then nothing else. And him and Owen Wilson giving each other puppy dog eyes for the whole show. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Without anything else there. But, again, I think if we were going to put Loki, it's going to be A or B. So we can just assume that's the unofficial ranking of Loki. As I also don't think I put Morph on here, which is unfortunately. But I think Morph is not enough to... But I also think there's a lot to talk about with Morph outside of the recent 97 series. I feel like Morph is a good character, but like...
We have... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that he's kind of like... But they're kind of like sort of a nebulous figure in the comics.
Yeah.
They have like... I'm not going to rank Morph based on one season of one show when like in the comics, Morph is like such a small figure. There's more prominent characters I think to talk about.
Yeah, there's a pretty much kind of like what I mentioned before with soft launching. We're gonna soft launch Morph to the general audience and see how they do. And if they don't work out well, we can just you go. Pack that on up.
By the way, if anyone here wants to discuss any of the characters in chat, please let us know. We will try to respond as best we can. But if you want to have your comment read aloud, please leave a super chat. Especially if you're listing singular letters at a time. If you can super chat all of those, I'll just read them all one by one out loud. If you pay me to read each one by one out loud.
No, right, $20 for.
No, I would love if honestly, if they did that, I would be fully on board saying whatever horrible thing you say is, well, spelling it out anyway. I wouldn't say it, but I'd spell it out. Unless it's like a slur, in which case I won't say out loud. Waste your money, but that's your choice. It's your operative. But no, so so Loki will be unofficial A or B. Here's the first real and more for just being. I got a comment. So one of the comments in the chat said, "What if we divide Loki from the comics, from the live action, and just talk like the comics?" I think I'd still be saying the same thing. Like it's still A or B.
Yeah. And to be honest, at this point, at least when it comes to Marvel, because they're so intertwined now, I find.
Oh yeah.
Like at least when it comes to like certain comic plots being taken for the TV shows, but also comic writers using some plots and details from the TV shows and the spin-offs in the comics. Like it's almost like before you could tell like who was cribbing off of one for the depiction of the character, but now it's like I don't know. Sometimes you get the one where it's like, are you all even on the same page in the same book, let alone like on the same page with how you want to do this? So
and plus
that is a good point.
Yeah, and plus with Loki, you also got Kid Loki, so you have that division as well. Because like
Lady Loki,
and that's the thing too, because the gender fluidity and identity fluidity. You can get a drastically different Loki depending on what era of the comic you're reading, and that just completely puts him off on a different level. But for right now, let's put Loki aside and focus on Batwoman.
S.
So S, we're in agreement?
S.
Yeah, S right there.
S.
So
that's why the silence was so long, because it's like, do we even really need to say? They are
S.
like, right, like they are so just on point with her rep. Like, even when they did the TV show,
100%.
I was kind of shocked at, them at least addressing it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for it being the CW, which was its own little thing with the gays. We got to beef with it.
Oh, 100%. And the thing is that I find and the CW shows, they queer baited a lot of their shows. Like Supergirl was basically for like a few years the show we go to like to want to see like queer rep that never comes. No, but like the thing with Batwoman is that, and we go into more detail about this in this Friday's video, but even from her origins, she's baked into the queer narrative. The character of Batwoman, for those who don't know, actually has her roots back in the 50s and 60s. Because this is when the book Seduction of the Innocent came out, which was a big, groundbreaking work in all the worst ways for comic books. The book illustrated how comics were corrupting the youth, and one fear that they had was that kids reading Batman and Robin would turn gay. Because they thought that
cooties.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like that by holding a issue of Batman and Robin, it would just spread the gay to you. So DC panicked and made a girlfriend for both Batman and Robin, Batwoman and Batgirl, who is not Barbara Gordon but a predecessor to Barbara Gordon. And what's so funny is that Batwoman would be like Bruce Wayne's like love interest for a bit, and then she kind of faded into obscurity. But what's so funny is they reintroduced in Post-Crisis Batwoman, except this time she was Bruce Wayne's cousin and had just quit the military, resigned from the military in protest of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which is, he basically has told them, I'm a lesbian, I can't serve anymore, bye. Because at that point in time, some people may not remember this or know this if you're younger, you couldn't be openly gay in the military.
That's why it was don't ask, don't tell.
Yep.
But I better not see you with no pierced ear. I better not see you holding hands with the same sex. Because if I do, you're out.
Yeah. And like they knew none of that had any impact on their performance as a soldier. Like there's nothing to... At no point does being gay have any impact on being able to serve in the military. But because of this rule, it was illegal to be openly gay in the military. And so Batwoman continues to fight injustice, to fight evil, but as a superhero instead of as a soldier. And again, baked into the LGBTQA issues, beyond the fact that she's just a really good character on top of that. So like you have like these really like genuinely throughout her origins, she's foundationally rooted in queerness, which is I think incredible. And I monopolized that conversation. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, that's pretty much it. And that's why it's like, she's S.
Yeah.
And I love the fact, at least from I haven't been able to read any of the more recent things. But given the stuff that I have read of Batwoman, the writers are very respectful of that notion that she is a lesbian character. You know,
it's
and
consistent.
We are right, exactly. It's consistent, and they're like, we can't shy away from this. This is who this character is, and you have to be comfortable writing those kinds of stories with her. And it's sad that I think a lot of them aren't, because they don't really know how to center a woman, if that makes sense, without being dependent on just. Without her somehow inadvertently getting a fridging of her own in a way.
Yeah.
This just was like any old, where she will be the one put in danger, is what I mean. Sorry, now I'm starting to ramble. I'm trying to
this is what happens in these streams. There's no structure, and all of a sudden you go into like... But I'll be doing it too, so who knows. Listen, I'm running off of 3 hours of sleep over the last 3 days, so I'm with you on that one.
I need some coffee.
Honestly, I was considering making coffee before starting, but then I figured if I do that, I won't be able to sleep. And that'll just make it worse. It'll just compound the problem, so I might as well just do this until I drop at the keyboard. Anyway, Midnighter. Oh, we're getting a comment actually I want to bring up. The Naruto again says that unfortunately DC editorial forbade Batwoman from marrying her fiancé during the New 52.
And that's why nobody liked the New 52.
Yeah, New 52 is terrible for that. Well, not terrible, but there's a lot of, especially with the female characters, New 52 really was a mess, especially early on.
And I specifically won't, now let me double check my sources, because did they give Superman that terrible buzz cut during the New 52.
Oh, I know they gave
They
him jeans. Yeah,
did.
that was that, and they gave him jeans. It was both of those. It was like a bad combination.
Oh God, they made him look like he wanted to talk to me about crypto.
Oh God, you're right. That's awful.
Oh,
I hate that you're correct. I hate that you're right
yeah.
about that. Yeah,
Like he's gonna drink a protein shake somewhere. Like, get the hell out of
It's
here.
amazing when you can. Let me bring up a picture of what you're talking about, just so like chat can see what we mean. New 52, Superman. Here we go. Oh, where's the buzz cut? Buzz cut.
Rather they brought back his wallet than do that to him.
Oh yeah, no, this was ugly. Oh God. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Right here. Right here.
It's hideous.
Leave my face. There you go. See that? Look at it. Look at it. It's awful.
He's mad about it.
I'm so sorry I have to deal with this awfulness. This is the worst. This is just horrible. Oh. This is the worst. I hate that dumb buzz cut. It's awful. Anyway, let me knock this one off. Ugh. Oh God, that was awful. So Midnighter.
I would say, I'd say either A or S.
Yeah.
Because I haven't read too many Midnighter stories, but the ones I do remember were really good, and I liked the rep. So.
Agreed. I think Midnighter is. I'm going to put Midnighter also as S. Because if you haven't read The Authority was kind of like, for those who aren't aware, it was a Wildstorm comic back in the 90s. And they introduced basically, it was basically like a British Avengers, so to speak. That was like the anti-Avengers. And Midnighter and Apollo were then dating but later married. I think they were like one of the first same-sex marriages in comics, I'm pretty sure. I think The Authority ended with their wedding. Before even the Northstar wedding issue, if I remember correctly. And I always liked Midnighter more, because Midnighter is a pastiche of Batman, though without a no-kill rule, a lot more brutal and much gayer. And what I love about that was that he was... I didn't include... Did I forget John Kent? Oh my God, how did I forget... Oh, this is how you know I did not... I'm running low on sleep. Because I didn't include John Kent, and Tim Drake isn't here. Looking at this. We'll include them later. Don't worry. We'll get to Tim Drake, and we can't overlook those two.
Yeah, we'll write it down.
Yeah. Because Loki is A right now, so we'll include the rest. So Midnighter, Midnighter's really, really good. The Warren Ellis run is pretty solid. The Warren Ellis himself, not a great human being, but he was very influential on the comic industry. So that's also very important right there. And again, Midnighter was eventually incorporated along with the rest of the Authority into the DC universe, where he met the source of his creation, Batman. So that's a whole discussion right there.
Yeah.
That being said, though, Apollo I don't think is as interesting as a character as Midnighter. I've never liked Apollo all that much. I've always liked Midnighter, but Apollo just feels really boring because
I can see that. Yeah.
Because I don't think they ever got his like Midnighter. You look at Midnighter, you get him. Apollo, you can tell he's just a Superman pastiche, and there's so many other Superman pastiches. The only thing that stands out is that he's gay, and there's other elements of the character too. But like, it's more of like the nitty gritty. It's not something that jumps out at you like that's like a full ranking of. I don't know. I'm not big on Apollo. Do you have any hard thoughts on that one?
No, because you're right. And it's really just how much, depending on how you read Superman and the direction that you're willing to go with him in that regard, with trying to break him down, they went for the safe route, the real safe route. I would put him at B.
Yeah, I'm you know what? I'm debating B or C. Yeah, I'm going to say C, only because, like, again, there's so much potential for this character, and especially DC doesn't do a good job with with Apollo, because you have the Wildstorm run, but he's all right. He's part of the team. He's interesting enough, but like we have a super chat from Meow Neon. Thank you so much for the super chat. Oh man, okay. The New 52 was the most 90s Marvel DC could ever get. It was weirdly reminiscent of Heroes Reborn. Coincidentally enough, Bill Jemas was one of the heads in charge of both the late 90s Marvel and the New 52. First off, once again, thank you for the super chat. You are a continual MVP on this chat. It basically does feel a lot like 90s Edge, the New 52. But beyond just that, like, and again, I'm not saying all of the New 52. There are some exceptional runs. Scott Snyder's Batman, I think, is especially a real big highlight. Everyone always points to that. I think Gail Simone's Batgirl is pretty solid at times.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember that one, people talking about pretty favorably. That, and I think the start of the Wonder Woman run.
Yeah.
I remember reading that, and I liked it, but then I kind of fell off.
I think there was controversy with that was the Brian Azzarello Wonder Woman run, right? Because I remember there was controversy about how they dealt with the Amazons, but beyond that, I thought the epic fantasy was really interesting. I thought it was really heightened in terms of like scale. The problem I always had with that is that it didn't really carry over with the rest of the New 52. Because you'd read the Wonder Woman run and she'd be like this epic hero, and she'd be like this, it'd be like almost like God of War at times, like in terms of like the scale. And then you get the Justice League, which is the Jeff Johns run of Justice League, and it's like, ice cream. What is this ice cream? I have just discovered ice cream. How amazing is this? Wow, I'm like a goldfish wandering around in the streets with no brain cells in my head. And they'd be coming out at the same time. And this is before they really established like where the timeline for New 52 was. So you'd be reading week to week Justice League and Wonder Woman, and you'd be like, where is when does this take place?
Yeah, it was like 5 hours ago, 10 weeks ago, 3 minutes ago. Like,
it's crazy. It's wild. Anyway, we got another super chat. The Guy 493. Thank you again for another super chat. I will never forgive the New 52 for royally screwing over Cassandra Cain.
Oh,
yes, but not just Cassandra Cain. Stephanie Brown, I have a lot of strong, and this will come back into play when we talk about Tim Drake later, because Stephanie Brown and Tim Drake are like there's a lot going on there, but they just eradicated them from existence, and that was the worst. And when she finally did show up, I think she was like Orphan. Was that when she first became Orphan? Was that New 52? Or was that Rebirth where she's Orphan?
I think Rebirth.
It was Rebirth, yeah, but like just horrendous how they and when she did finally show up, she was like nothing like herself. So it was awful, just absolutely horrendous. If I'm remembering it correctly, because I remember like you have like, because like Batgirl, Barbara Gordon had to be the one Batgirl. Okay,
right.
You had to make that. You had to take away from Oracle. You had to change her. And I love the Stephanie Brown run on Batgirl. I think that was a great. Where she was Batgirl, I thought that was incredible, and that ended prematurely because of the New 52 run, and that always annoyed me. And like, Barbara Gordon was fantastic as Oracle, and she was a great example of disability rep in comics. And then you get like, I don't know.
I know why I know why they were doing that, because yes, they wanted to reinstate her, but also the tremendous like regret now of the Killing Joke. I think on part of both Moore and DC a little bit. They're like, you know what? Now is the time to finally rectify this mistake, ignoring the fact that other writers have built up this, good disability rep in Barbara Gordon over the years, and that maybe don't just do that. Like, don't correct your previous mistake just yet. Look and see the response to how she is now and how she developed, and then go from there. But I think they were just like, no, we gotta restart from the very beginning, start from the top.
Exactly. And it just sucks because like there's so many writers had taken that narrative and gone in ways that were so interesting and creative, and then they just kind of took an easy route. I don't know. I don't like that at all. Anyway, back to this. As far from Barbara Gordon as we can get, we're going to space and the 40s. Alan Scott's Green Lantern.
Uh
So Earth 2 gay Alan Scott Green Lantern.
oh.
Are you familiar? Have you read? I'm not sure if you've read a lot of Green Lantern. Have you or?
I haven't, but I do know about Alan, and I'm trying to remember exactly when they decided to.
I think it was like that might have been post New 52. I think it was like last 10, 15
Yeah,
years.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I can't really. I mean, for right now, I would say probably a C.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm going with C as well. I think I'm going with B actually. I'll bump up the B. I think only because
Bumblebee.
I think the ideas are good. I think it's great making a classic character like this in a new way. Because again, no one was talking about Alan Scott at
Right.
this point in time. Like not no one. He had fans, but like he.
If I went up to somebody reading the comic, like, "Hey, you read that new Alan Scott Green Lantern?" They're like, "Who the fuck? Who is that?" Like,
Mm,
what? Like, you mean Hal Jordan,
yeah.
don't you?
And that's the thing
Yeah.
too. Like Alan Scott, despite being the first Green Lantern, is no one's first thought when they hear the word Green Lantern. You think of either they're probably going to think of Hal Jordan. People who grew up in our generation might think of John Stewart first because of the Justice League cartoon.
Right.
But like, or Kyle Rayner, or I know there's a few Guy Gardner fans. I don't understand. You're all made of stronger stuff than I am, but
He like couldn't be me though, but y'all be blessed.
you all are diehard, and I appreciate that, but I don't get it at all. But like no, so Alan Scott, like this really put him back in the conversation as like a real, and there's some really good stories that have been told about Alan Scott, I think, since then. But I do think the initial storyline wasn't as great. But I think like people mentioning the Tim Sheridan line run in the comics, yeah, there's some good stuff with him. Also, obviously, the best Green Lantern is Kilowog, but like we're not ready for that conversation right now. But oh, Harris is a Guy Gardner fan. Oh my goodness. Okay, so moving away from Alan Scott, Daken, Wolverine's bisexual son.
Uh, let me see.
Yeah, Daken's a weird one. I think.
This is gonna be one of them in between. I wish there was like C plus, B minus.
Right. I mean, like we could probably reorganize it so it like it's ranked from best to worst in terms of like.
Oh, going down. Oh, true.
Yeah. I mean, Daken, he's odd because I mean he was pretty big in the 2000s and early 2010s. I think also thanks in part because of the Dark Avengers storyline where Norman Osborn becomes like the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. and
Yeah.
has Daken replace Wolverine on the Avengers and Venom Scorpion replace Spider-Man.
I mean,
And that's some good stuff right there. I think Daken's interesting. I don't think he's like I've never loved the character. He's always been a good little like after Dark Reign he kind of like fades away from it a little bit outside of Pride issues, which feels weird because it's like he's the
right.
villain.
The villain.
And he's
He
on
should
these
be
like cuddly Pride issues all the time. Like no, he's kind of like a
he's getting soft boyed.
yeah. And he sends Wolverine to hell. He tries to get revenge on his dad all the time. Like he's not like
But he's a small being.
he's definitely small. I mean,
He is a small being.
yeah, no,
And he's eepy.
no. He's getting a C. He's getting a C. That settles it for me.
So that's solidified it.
That solidified it. Him being an eepy small boy. That visual of Daken, that put me in like, nope, get out of here.
Somebody got him in a flower crown right now on Tumblr. Bet money.
Oh, probably. Okay, and also Chad is mentioning the Cena Grace Iceman run where Daken showed up. Where he became almost like a rival to Bobby Drake. Also, the thing with Daken is that he's framed as like so other writers have done this differently, but when he's first introduced, his sexuality is kind of like crossed up with hedonism a little bit. So it's kind of like a stereotype of the depraved bisexual, but and chat's bringing this up too as well. We're kind of debating on the merits of his origin, but like he's also been done differently by different writers, and that's the big issue with any of these discussions.
Yeah.
Like, you get a character who was introduced as like very problematic and very messy, and the other writers try to soften the character up to be more marketable, to maybe they're overcorrecting too for a perceived problem. Because I mentioned a whole video about this. People got angry with this on Twitter. It was just, I think, hilarious that, you know, people try to a lot of corporations, they'll try to commodify queer narratives to make it marketable, to make it a sell.
Right.
And one thing they do with that is they kind of take away the edges. So even in a very wholesome story, there's always edges to the narrative. And with Daken, he comes from a place that's already a little like messy, and trying to soften him up, that kind of takes away like everything he had going for him, actually.
Yeah, you kind of end up scraping away of the, you know what, like of the personality almost, or the added, you know, the spice.
Exactly.
The conflicting. Yeah, I think about because me and my SpongeBob references with everything. Remember when he went to go be normal, and when he came back, he was just round.
Yes.
Like no edge. He was just round. He was like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yeah, rounding off the edges.
Right. That's kind of what I think with like especially like in terms of some of the characters on here. I'm like, damn, they don't.
You know, the more I talk about this, the more I feel comfortable bringing him down to D. Actually,
I've seen that's kind of
D for
I
Daken.
was trying to be more. I was trying to be more hopeful and be like, oh, maybe B and C.
No, he's going down. Maybe like him less, actually, the more I was talking about him. Okay, here's the big one. Northstar.
Oh.
From Alpha Flight.
Alpha Flight. I don't think I've read that one before.
Oh, this is the big gay issue. This is the one where this is like the big first the first major openly gay character in Marvel, who was like a superhero, not just like because there are other supporting characters who were gay before him, but like he was the first, and like this was the one, and I actually it's funny. This week I'm going to be posting a big video, and we're going to be talking about Northstar in more detail there. And I don't want to don't want to just say what I was talking to Andrew about with this one, but Northstar essentially, he's kind of just he there's a big issue on AIDS, which is as subtle as you expected in the early 90s.
Oh Lord, not another New Guardian.
And so Northstar has this whole thing where he gives like a big screaming monologue speech to the person about like the intricacies of like someone's sexuality and all that. And like as he's punching the guy out, he ends the statement by saying, "And I know all this because I am gay." Like in all caps as he punches the guy out. Neon, thank you for the super chat. Weirdly enough, created by super conservative John Byrne. Yeah, so John Byrne
knows not what he knew.
and supposedly he planned on Northstar being gay from the beginning. Like apparently, like him and they all wanted him to be gay from the supposedly, according to how he tells the story. That he wanted Northstar to be gay all the way back in like the 80s, but when they first created the Alpha Flight team. But this is the most rational point to bring it up in the 100th issue of a comic that hadn't been selling all that well. But and Northstar was again written by different writers. Since then, he had his marriage was one of the first big like major event issues. Like it's super 90s, it's super goofy. And it was groundbreaking. Like this was a groundbreaking character for the time. it's cheesy now, and it was probably cheesy then too, but like
Well, we have to honor those who came before us.
exactly.
We must put him in the S tier.
Yeah, I'm gonna put him in A actually because
Eh,
because again, like certain components of the character, even though I think the character, and again, like again, we mentioned this in this week's video, but there was like a mini series he was in shortly after the issue sold like hotcakes, and they never mention the fact he's gay in that issue, or at least don't really make a big deal of it. They kind of
Right.
like, it's almost like they wanted him to be popular because he was the first gay superhero, but then the writers realized that meant they had to write him as a gay superhero, and they just didn't want to do it.
It's like if you're good, yeah, because if you're gonna say it, then you have to commit, and they're like, well, I don't
And this is
feel
back
like
in the
doing all
90s
that.
too, where it's
Yeah.
like you got like your Deadpools. Oh crud, there's no Deadpool on here. Wow, I must have really been out of it when we made this tier list.
Well, because we were talking, and I thought of another one. Kevin from the Archie comics.
Oh, there you go. Well, I kept I kept the Marvel and DC, but like Archie right there, there's a whole bunch of queer characters in Archie. In fact, I if you want to go by the Archie, by Riverdale, the TV show, they all end up in a
Was so
bisexual
shocked.
polycule.
Yeah, it is. Like everything I have not seen Riverdale, but everything I have heard about it, one has been against my will, and two, I could not believe. And I think it got on my radar that one episode where they used like cosplay of Ray's schoolgirl uniform from Evangelion to represent like some kind of cult. And I saw the screenshot and I was like, ain't no way this is real. Ain't no way.
It could
And
be real for all we know. I never
Oh my
finished Riverdale. They did some wild stuff, and then they crossed over with like the Sabrina Netflix show. So
Oh.
also Gwenpool's not here. Okay, there's a lot of gaps in this tier list I threw together in like 5 minutes. Okay, in fairness, I was doing it while waiting for my video for Friday to finish like converting. So like, it's a few holes. We'll talk about Gwenpool, Deadpool, Tim Drake, and John Kent after the rest of these. Hold me to it, Chad. I won't forget any of them. Those are some big ones.
Oh my god.
Anyway, Wiccan and Hulkling. I think Wiccan and Hulkling. I think we can kind of count them as one because, like, I think we both are probably gonna put them in the same rank together.
Probably, but that's also a testament, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Where their story and their rep has been pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and like the thing that's so great about Hulkling and Wiccan is that they're such different characters. Like they both have great ties into Nadia Von Dyne, who's asexual. That's another character too, the Unstoppable Wasp. So we won't forget that one as well. We'll add them to the end as well. So Wiccan, of course, is tied in with one of the best Wanda Scarlet Witch stories, where she thinks her two children are materializing. She thinks she has two kids, but really they're like manifestations of.
Yeah.
Wait, and Constantine I did include. Constantine's on here. He's on this list. Don't worry, I know where he is. It's a weird image of him, but he's on here. No, but like, and Hulkling is, of course, the half Kree, half Skrull, Prince of all space.
Right.
I love their dynamic. I'm absolutely biased here because I love the whole contrast of like this magic twink and like his like extremely strong big king of the cosmos husband.
Skinny twink and his large man.
And like they're just so like earnest, and I think one thing that works, this would not work if they weren't such well-written characters. Like if they weren't so likable and charming and like, but also so tied in with the greater Marvel cosmology and mythology and these legacy, these characters just would not work, because you have Wanda Maximoff and her mess of a life.
I was gonna say her whatever she got.
Yeah, whatever she. You got.
We don't know. She don't know.
No, that's a whole thing. And I'm reasonably confident putting these both in S. Do you have any objection to that one, Kyla?
You literally cut out on my end when you said, I think I'm going to put them both.
Oh, good.
So I didn't hear a word.
It's X. Putting an X. Yeah.
Oh, S, yes.
S.
That's what I was
S?
thinking.
I meant S.
X.
Did I say X? Well, no, S. S. This is how you know I have spent... So, chat, for those of you just joining in, I have not slept in about 3 days, and you can tell based on this tier list. And all the omissions therein. No, yeah, any objections to that one, Kyle?
Oh, no, because that's what I was thinking. I was thinking S tier or at the very least A.
Yeah, no,
because
these are...
they're top tier.
If not only for how well written they are. And again, the one thing I'm holding out the most for with the MCU is when they finally put Wiccan and Hulkling together. I am... For Young Avengers, I'm hoping they do that. That's one thing I'm really holding out for. I would love to see that, along with them. I can see Kamala Khan having some good dynamics with them, too, but that's another discussion for the day.
Yeah.
So, Bastion, I have not slept in 3 days. It's pretty terrible. Okay. I'm editing a video. That's what I've been doing this whole time. Okay. America Chavez.
Oh.
This is a tricky one.
Oh.
Controversial character. Extremely controversial. Pretty decent representation in the MCU in terms of, like, something that no one really seen. I don't think anyone had an issue with America Chavez when she showed up in, like, Doctor Strange 2. Like, which is good.
No.
I don't think the usual suspects didn't even complain, which is remarkable. Oh, we have another super chat. Oh, Majin Gojira. That's a kick-ass name, dude. I love that. Thank you for the super chat. I've been waiting for a team-up of Wiccan, Hulkling, Caroline Dean, Zavin, and Nico Minoru to have a big space adventure for years. And quite frankly, yeah, same. Actually, the fact that these young characters haven't all teamed up yet is really remarkable. And there's so much potential for these team-ups of characters. Just have the Runaways in, like, Young Avengers team up. Please, Marvel. It's so simple. It's so basic. And there are some Runaway characters on here as well. Obviously. Okay, so America Chavez, we have... Okay, so she's extremely powerful. She has 2 moms. She's from another dimension. She's extremely bisexual. I think extremely gay. I'm going to comment here. I do feel bad for writer Gabby Rivera since she got so much homophobic backlash from comic skaters back when America Chavez got her solo. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
There was so much backlash, and unfair backlash, too. Because they treated this character like her and Riri Williams, they treated as, like, the scapegoat for everything wrong with comics, which was their excuse for bullying a bunch of marginalized authors and writers and artists. So
yeah, the unwashed brigade just got to make everybody else's life miserable.
You could smell them at New York Comic Con. I've said this before in, like, on Twitter. I almost bumped into Ethan Van Sciver when he was at New York Comic Con in 2019. You could smell the guy. Anyway, so America Chavez, I feel like she's a solid A or B. I think the problem I have with America Chavez is that since, like, the big backlash, they haven't really done a whole lot with her. Since her like, she's kind of, if she kept the momentum going after the Gabby Rivera comic, which again had issues, it wasn't a flawless comic. Like, if they kept that momentum going, that would have really worked, but they really kind of didn't. And she has a good dynamic with the other Young Avengers. I see chat's mentioning Kate Bishop and America Chavez have good chemistry. I don't know if I ship them, but, like, Kate Bishop has good chemistry with everyone on her team. I think solid B for bisexual is good for America Chavez because she is a good character. I just don't think she's... I don't think they've used her enough is the problem. Like, especially recently. Like, she's kind of fallen off in terms of, and again, live action always has an impact on everything, but like, I do think she's one of the better Young Avengers who've been adapted so far. All 3 of them, really.
I was gonna say out of how many?
Well, I mean, you have, yeah. I mean, I'm guessing I'm counting Kamala Khan as one of them, but like,
Okay.
so you got Kamala Khan, who's I think is the best example. Kate Bishop, who's great. America Chavez. Stature, which I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania was rough. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. That movie's that one's rough.
I ain't even bother. I saw the reviews. I'm like, you know what?
Like,
That's
it's fine as like a movie you have on in the background. I think it's probably the worst MCU movie to come out since Dark World, I'd say.
oh
Yeah, I'd put it that low. The more I think about it, the less I like it. Like, when I first left the movie theater, I was like, that was okay. I liked it. But then as time passes, like, and there's nothing like egregious about it. It's just not as strong. Like,
right.
you can see where the corners were cut, or where the special effects studios were rushed. And like, I get, there's nothing bad about it. I just don't. I just have no real strong desire. But then again, I'm not like really big on any of the Ant-Man films. That's the other thing too. Like, I like the first Ant-Man. That one's solid. But after that, I'm like, they're all alright. They're all kind of nebulous to me. Like, I don't have a strong memory of the original Ant-Man and the Wasp. I didn't love Quantumania at all. And like, I think Marvel has a lot of their like movies that people hate on Marvel for recently, with Phase 4 and 5. I liked Eternals quite a bit. I thought The Marvels was actually pretty good, which I get a lot of flack for in a couple of my videos. But like, Quantumania just didn't. It's not as bad as Secret Invasion though. That one was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard to sit through. But anyway, you didn't like socialist ants. Yeah, I like the socialist ants. That's the one thing I like. That was the funniest bit. So are you gonna see Quantumania? I'll just tell
No.
you. Okay, you're not gonna see So Quantumania, they're doing experiments with like the quantum realm and with ants, and these ants, and they're trying to make wavelengths to go back and forth into the quantum realm, and of course hijinks ensue. Early in the film, they go into the quantum realm, and the ants separate from them. And like, the whole movie, there's like hints of something going on in the background. Turns out the ants have like formed a secret socialist society in the quantum realm, and they've just like gone super evolved in like the background.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
Did they kill the queen?
No, they just tried to kill Kang. And that's when you knew Kang was not going to be like an effective villain, when he's like struggling against the army of ants. I'm like, oh, you could have done so much different with Kang, and like, you just like, I mean, he's still a threat in the movie, but like, you can't show him losing to an army of ants, even if he does turn the tides for even a second, because it just undermines the threat level. And that's when like Marvel's kind of like, even before the allegations with them.
I was gonna say, they're probably like, "Woo! I'm glad we didn't all bet on that." No,
It's like they double down on it too by the end, and it's like, and they're kind of like, oh, that's the audience's like wet reaction, to damp, underwhelming reaction. That was kind of like Marvel going, maybe we should pull back a bit from Kang. Anyway, speaking of a more beloved supervillain, kinda, from that time, a classic supervillain, Catwoman, who is bisexual, because she kissed a girl once and she liked it. So this is one that I have a lot. I'm going to count Black Cat in this as well, not because I necessarily think they're at all similar. They are very different characters, but like, I think they have the same problem, in my opinion, with the representation. In that they make a big deal of the issue where you find out that Catwoman is bi or Black Cat is bi, and then they never mention it again.
That's what I was gonna say, is that they don't bring it up, and they just kind of like, especially like in well, actually, both of their cases, it's over sexualized. Like you can. It's so easy to fall into that trope of the over sexualized bisexual person, right? Because like, oh, you like men and women. Oh, that must mean that you're like getting everybody, or you're so horny that you get, want to get around. And it's like, I can't even get one date, let alone try to get two.
Being bisexual doesn't mean you have multiple partners. It means you get rejected more often.
Right.
Is what it does. It opens up the door to disappointment, not to success.
Yeah, that bi is meant for double
by yourself.
By yourself.
Did you see this was a thing on like they brought Totally Spies back, and I first thought I was wrong when I heard this, that they were gonna make the character Clover, who is like the blonde from that group, bi. Because honestly, her being bisexual is the least strange thing to have happened to Clover over the course of Totally Spies, the show. Like, the girl gets tortured by every single possible weird deviant fetish they could think of. But at first, like, no, it's a translation issue. It's not. She's not actually bi. It turns out she is bi. But it turns out that both the girl she's attracted to and a girl that's attracted to her hook up at the end of the episode and start dating and leave her behind. So she gets rejected twice in the same episode by two different girls, which is just... Yeah, that's
the experience.
That's the experience.
That's true representation. Wow.
Yeah, better representation than Catwoman. And again, it's funny too, because with Black Cat, they do a little more with it, and by that I mean the PS2 video game mentions that PS5 video game mentions that Black Cat is bi and has a girlfriend. But like,
now see, I didn't know that update. It's been a minute since, like I said, it's been a minute since I've read a big two, and I didn't know that. So kudos to them on doing that.
Yeah, and again, that's in the game, and she has a girlfriend, I think, in the comics now too. But
okay.
Like again, the thing with, and of course with Black Cat, there's of course also the continual tension between her and Mary Jane. There is one one panel where Black Cat puts Mary Jane in like one of her black cat suits and like,
oh yeah, I've seen that,
and like, is like slapping her butt and stuff, and I'm like, it's like on one hand it's very it's a charming kind of funny jokey joke scene, but also it's like, was this intentionally like ship teasing, or was it like kind of goofy? Or Jackpot, yeah, Black Cat's dating Jackpot. Okay, I'm actually behind on that a little bit too with Black Cat. I actually just knew she was dating someone, I didn't realize it was Jackpot. But like again, like I'd rather Peter Parker end up in like a poly relationship with Black Cat and Mary Jane than like pine after Gwen Stacy again for like 7 decades.
Never learned to let it go.
Yeah, but again, Black Cat's bisexuality is at least more interesting than Catwoman's, I think.
Right, and it could and that's the thing, is like it could be, but kind of like how they kept tiptoeing around the Batman Catwoman wedding, like, and then eventually just like,
yeah,
we ain't gonna do it. Like, you got all the potential in there to explore this side of the character, yet you won't do it.
Yeah. Oh no, MJ's black. This is how you know I'm tired. No.
Oh
no, she's not dating. She's not dating Mary Jane. Okay, yeah, I don't know why I'm so tired. I'm like misread. Like, oh yeah, Jackpot. I was thinking of the new female Goblin character when I read Jackpot. What's her name? It's All Hallows. What's the? Ben Reilly's. I'm drawing a
Oh
blank.
hell.
It's a whole
Oh,
thing. Anyway, this is proof I'm too tired to have this discussion of like complex comic lore. Why I'm streaming right now on 3 hours of sleep is anyone's guess, but we're running with this. This will be embarrassing later, I'm sure. Catwoman, though, I'm going to put in C, because even though I love the character Catwoman as purely queer rep,
it don't work.
Hallows
Like,
Eve, there we go, that's the character's name, Hallows Eve. As queer rep, it doesn't work.
yeah, it could if someone would be brave enough to just, just go through with it. Like something, anything, the bare minimum.
Well, as chat is pointing out, they wouldn't even let Batman go down on Catwoman.
You know what? You're right. They're cowards. The lot
They
of them.
are all cowards. And again, the Harley Quinn show continues to be the bastion of like superhero sexuality that we actually need in comics. I'm gonna be nice to Catwoman and put her in C, but it's the lower tier of C. I might bump it down to D if I'm feeling like not generous.
I was gonna say this would be like a C minus.
Yeah, it's C minus. Yeah, so Hallows Eve is the girlfriend of Ben Reilly, which is a whole. Ben Reilly's whole thing has gotten really strange too. I'm not gonna lie. Like the last couple of years of Spider-Man have been really weird. Like,
oh God, how much more worse can it get for this man?
oh, it gets so much worse. It gets so much worse. Like it's remarkable how much Marvel seems to hate doing any, like being a Spider-Man fan is like a perpetual conga line of like, what's the worst direction we can take this character in? Like it's telling when all of the spin-offs are like clearly the right, or like AUs and all that are clearly the writers telling the stories they want to tell, and like editorials making them tell these like who the fuck is Paul? Like who is this guy? Like, who the hell thought that was a good idea? Yeah, we got Mary Jane go off with Paul. Like, no. Renee Montoya.
Oh.
Both as the cop and as the question.
Oh. Now, there's a name I haven't heard in a while, but that's particularly because what I've been reading, I haven't seen her in. But,
So we have both, keep in mind, there's a couple dimensions here. First, there's the Gotham Central storyline, where she is outed by Two-Face out of like kind of revenge, and then there's later on when she's dating Batwoman as a cop, as like an ex-cop, I think, and as the question. First off, Renee Montoya is a great character, really interesting, really well written. Her, I think, award-winning storyline. I think it was up for a GLAAD award. I'm pretty sure, or at least was. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not. Don't hold me to it. I don't know for certain. But Renee Montoya's that arc with Gotham Central is incredible. Like, it's a really great example of like the supporting cast of Batman getting their time to shine in Gotham, and it's really compelling stuff. Her relationship with Batwoman, I think, is really compelling, especially in their on and off again relationship early on, and her kind of diverging into her own identity as the question.
Yeah.
And of course, I think it's very interesting that the question is how that character has changed. I'm pretty sure Steve Ditko made the question, right? That was his character.
Yeah, because that was right around. Damn, when did she become the question?
Well, I think it was after Infinite Crisis. No, Infinite Crisis.
It was Countdown.
It wasn't.
No, that was before.
No, I think it was. It might be Count. No, it was either around. It was rather around or before Countdown to Final Crisis. I think it was. Was it 52? Was that the? Was that was like the post, like the year gap after Infinite Crisis? Yeah.
52. Yeah, that was it.
I think it was during 52. Yeah, and it's a great storyline, and she's a great character. I think the problem with Renee Montoya is, again, like a lot of these characters, they had a really good run, and then that run lost momentum with the New 52. Or like in that era, I think that a lot of these storylines, they were... Yeah, so Steve Ditko made the question. And again, Steve Ditko is a bit of an Ayn Rand fan, as So the question embodied a lot of the Randian objectivist philosophy. Some people saying it's after Final Crisis. So, but I think it was after Infinite Crisis. Because I'm pretty sure the question was around before Final Crisis. Anyway, yeah, but I think a really good character. I think, again, derailed a bit because of the New 52 and all that. I think I put Renee Montoya in A tier. What do you think?
I would say A.
Yeah, right next to Northstar. Again, a great character, but... I'm sorry, your thoughts. I keep talking over everyone. I'm sorry if that's...
Oh, no. Like, because, like I said, I haven't been able to catch up with her in anything, like, new that they've been doing. But you're right. Her relationship was given, at the time, like, really good dedication. Really thought as well. Like, really good thought. So I would say A. Kind of, like... Yeah, I would say A. And honestly, this makes me want to see if she's in anything new right now because I miss her.
Right? So much.
She's a great character.
Honestly, like, that's a character who... And again, I think one factor that really got in the way, unfortunately, would be the failure of Birds of Prey financially. Because that, I feel, got in the way of a lot of these really cool stories, which is a little annoying. But yeah, no. So, yeah, Renee Montoya, great character. There's so much there that's, like, we can talk about. But I do want to talk a little about the Runaways. Carolina. I can never say her name correctly. It's Carolina, right? Yeah, Carolina Dean, who is one of the original members of the Runaways. She is the one with, like, the rainbow hair who can, like, manipulate, like, laser and produce force fields and all that.
Right.
Big lesbian. Great big lesbian. Actually, so Kyla, I should ask, are you familiar with, again, like, and the thing is, like, she's a lesbian. She's a walking rainbow flag. And... Are you familiar with the Runaways at all, Kyla? Did you ever read those or see the show or anything like that?
I've seen the show. I have not read the comics, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the was it Rainbow Rowell, even though she has a lot of issues as a writer. And again, we're also going to talk about Nico as well, who I think personally, it's like pastel versus dark, edgy goth, essentially, is what that relationship is. But, like, I like Carolina. I really love Nico. That's my bias. Like, I like Carolina a lot. She's very a nice character. But I really love Nico. Again, part of that has to do a lot with, A, the Rainbow Rowell run, and 2, the Midnight Suns video game. Because Nico is, like, one of the main characters. I mean, there are a lot of main characters in it, but she's, like, one of the first main characters. Like, it's they have the Runaways have a messy dynamic, and I love that. Like, it's like real found family, real YA, in the best way possible kind of storytelling. I love these characters. Or rather, I love Nico, and I really like Carolina. Again, but they're both really good, and they're both earnest, and they're both sincere. It is interesting, though, because it's hard not to compare them a little bit to Hulkling and Wiccan because of the timeline in which they were both released, the Runaways and the Avengers. I think they're very different vibes. Oh, Imagine Gojira, thank you again for the super chat. Nico is the reason I got into comics proper. Really?
Oh.
That is interesting. And again, here's the big thing. I always think that everyone is everyone's first. Every character is someone's favorite. And I think Nico is one that I think gets overlooked a lot. There's the whole dark magical element to it. She's just a great, great character. And again, there's something to always be said for the outsider, who is this kind of alternative, edgy person who has ties, whose parents are supervillains, who has ties with like great magical forces. Yeah. It's interesting and fun to discuss and fun to watch. And again, do you think the Runaways will get a big reset in the MCU? I hope so. I would love that, quite frankly, I would love to see them. I know they were going to put Nico in that Spider-Man cartoon that they've been working on for like years. Oh, her and Cassandra Cain. Yeah, I can see you have a type then. They're both like that same kind of like outsider who exists on the periphery of society. Both strangers among even their friends and found family. They're great characters. I love Cassandra Cain is also, especially I think is incredible.
Yeah, she's really good.
Oh yeah, no. Again, a lot of people saying Molly was their favorite character in Runaways. Yeah, that's fair. That's valid. I'm gonna put. You know what? What do you think though? Where should we put these two? Because I feel like I have a bias for one over the other, but I don't want to admit that.
Well, given that my only experience with them has been the show, which is good, and I liked it. I thought it was, but then again, I haven't really been into the movie side of the MCU for a minute, but I do hope that they get a big reset. If they're planning on it, I hear they might be doing it for Eternals. So if they can do it for them, they better do it for these kids.
Yeah, seriously.
But I would probably say B.
You think B?
B for both of them.
Okay, I'll go with you on that one. I was going to put Nico in A, but B sounds fair. I put him right around. I might move Alan Scott down a bit to the end of B because I don't want to
Yeah.
Because I feel like America. These three are like. I feel like these three are America, Nico, and Carolina. I feel like they're a little more prominent, and it feels almost like weird to put them alongside Alan Scott because I definitely feel like they also embody that rebellious queer vibe that is just such a great element of queer storytelling. But again, okay, another character from Runaways is Zavin, a genderqueer, sexually fluid. I think they're a Skrull, right? Zavin,
I think so.
Yeah, they're a Skrull, and they have both male and female forms, and they're very. And at one point, it was actually engaged to Carolina. So there's a lot going on with Zavin. I think they're very interesting. I think kind of the same boat personally.
What, B?
I think B also with Zavin.
Eh.
Again, the Runaways hits that same good vibe of good young adult coming of age narrative that I think really works for queer coming of. I think a lot of queer people, that was the stories they graft onto when they're growing up, and so I feel like it's almost wrong not to. Part of me wants to place them higher, but also I feel like it's not a demerit to them. It's more just a testament to how good the other characters are. They're good. They're really good characters. I feel like Renee Montoya, Batwoman. I think they're just in a different league. But now it comes to John Constantine.
Ah, the boy.
My disaster bisexual.
the icon for us all.
Just a complete mess. Yeah, there's just a couple people in chat are saying, the way I'm talking about the Runaways is put them in A tier, but I'm on the fence. They're not. I'll put them above America Chavez. Only because I do feel the more I talk about them, the more I think that they embody that queer narrative more. So John Constantine is bisexual canonically. Right. He definitely dated Killer Shark in that one series.
Oh, that one movie.
So he's got that going for him. But he was bi before it was even Vertigo Comics, again, they were just built differently. They were dealing with queer themes. A lot of people mentioning in chat, put some of the Endless on this, which feels weird. I don't think the Endless makes sense in any discussion of sexuality because it doesn't apply to them. They're so beyond existence. But Constantine is a steaming hot disaster of a human being.
Exactly.
Like if he's not on death's door from the start and end of that story, it did not do it correctly.
Yeah, if anything, I would only put him in D because I'd make it stand for dumpster fire. Like, if we had to go for top tier dumpster fire, we would put Constantine in D.
Yeah, and like again, like this is a great example of what I was talking about like last week about like the messy, like screwed up like queer stories that so often get like glossed over. Like Constantine is his life is garbage. He has always been garbage, and that's kind of amazing. Like Hellblazer as a comic is just incredible. I think
It is. It's so good.
and like him in Swamp Thing, him in Sandman, great, one of the best characters DC has ever put out, and like the one that always gets overlooked a ton. Here's the thing. I have to really be convinced not to put him in S because he's just such a disaster. But as a queer narrative, though,
I would say I'm putting him in S.
Yeah, because it was normal. I'm going to put him right below Batwoman because, like, Constantine was queer in a time where and normalized that he was bisexual. So it was a normalized queer narrative in a way at a time where that just wasn't done in comics. And that is a big-ish thing, you know? And again, like, as Chat's pointing out, Constantine is a disaster for many reasons. His bisexuality is just one component of it.
Right. And I think that's why I'm putting him in S2 is because that's one element about him, and they play it off just like that. Like, it's so normalized, kind of like what you were saying. Like, it's just, that's who he is. It's Constantine.
Yeah, no. He just is. And people in chat are saying, like, can you tell me some Constantine stories? It's sprinkled throughout his run. There's a few issues specifically, but I'd have to, like, double check to see which issues it is because, like, unfortunately, with that initial run on Hellblazer, like, a lot of it does blur together for me, like, which stories end and what part.
What new one begins.
Yeah, because it's been years since I've read that in its entirety. So it's not like, say, Spider-Man, where, like, I can tell you, like, oh, yeah, it's that issue where this character first showed up. It's like with Constantine, I'm a little more hazy because they do feel like it's, because of the way it's written, it does feel like you're kind of going along this meandering journey with Constantine, and it's
right.
If you look online, you'll find them though. People have gone through all of Hellblazer and pointed out all the queer points. So if you really want to look for it, you can find them individually. But I do recommend reading that initial like 300 issue run on it before leading up to New 52. I think it's incredible.
Yeah.
So here's the controversial one. Iceman.
Oh boy.
Iceman is a tough one. Because you really have three discussions here. You have the Cena Grace miniseries. You have Young Iceman in the all new X-Men. And then you have Iceman's coming out. And those are all three very different conversations to have. Maybe the Cena Grace one we'll go with first, because that's the easiest one to discuss. I think the Cena Grace Iceman is solid. I think it's a really good run.
Yeah.
I think Cena really brought his, I think it's his, right? It's his pronouns, I think.
Well, let me double check.
Yeah. So Cena really brought lived experience to Iceman in a way that apparently Marvel company pushed back on a lot, which really stinks that there was so much difficulty for that run. But I think it was a solid run. It was a really good miniseries. If you haven't read that mini, read it. It's solid.
Yeah, it's good.
The stories involving young Bobby Drake confronting his older self, now that the younger Bobby Drake was outed first, and I use that language very particularly.
Yeah.
I think that dynamic is really interesting because you see like the young bisexual, not young bisexual, young gay talking to this deeply repressed man and like confronting how repressed he was until that point in time. And again, with Iceman, there were some people who theorized he might have been gay for years
Yeah.
because he could never keep a girlfriend. And while he was a ladies' man who was always thinking about girls, you see with that context that it was kind of a defense mechanism from his own sexuality. Again, none of these writers had this in mind. I don't think a single writer writing these older stories was thinking, oh, Iceman's going to turn out to be gay in like 30 years. But like, it is a happy accident that these stories exist because it shows the deep levels of repression with the retcon. So again, I like those two components. So after Iceman comes out as gay, it really works. It's an interesting narrative about repression and coming out later in life and coming out yet earlier in life, depending what story you're following.
Yep.
However,
No, just end it there.
now I actually so I cut this out of the video I did on Friday, but I'll tell you this right now. As part of the video, I interviewed a bunch of different people from throughout the comic community. One was Andrew Farago, who Kyle and I both know, really really cool dude. Another one was another person we've talked to a bunch, Joe Glass.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a name I haven't heard of in a minute.
Oh yeah, right. I just reached out. Hey, you busy this this upcoming Sunday? Let's talk about comics. Like, okay. So I was talking to him about it, and I cut this out of the video because I felt like it wasn't necessary to go into the specifics in the course of the video. But like, we talked about, and for those who don't know, Joe Glass, he's an indie comic writer. He's done a lot of really good work. He's famous for The Pride and a bunch of other works as well. Anyway, so we were discussing Iceman coming out, and he actually really likes the Iceman coming out scene because he felt it was reflective of like teenagers being stupid. which is like, he was like, not being stupid, like teenagers not thinking things through before they act, like,
typical teenage stuff.
So like for someone who has for Jean Grey, who has no sense of boundaries with in terms of like, especially at that age, she's a teenager who can read minds. There's no sense of privacy for her, and his argument was convincing. But I don't agree with it still. He was like, oh, because she has no boundaries, so she's just reading his mind, and just this comes up, and she just spurts it out, and like that's really realistic to the teenage experience. I'm like, yeah, you're right, but like at the same time. The way it's done, yes, a teenager would say it that way. They are being dumb. But, like, it's still not a good way of doing it. I still have to like it.
Yeah, it's really one of those, like, you know that gif of Larry David going like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because, like, yeah, it's realistic. Yeah, people have been outed before, but we've done outing scenes in comics before that, and they don't come across this way. Like, again, Renee Montoya. Her being outed by Two-Face is traumatic, and it's awful, and the carry-through is hurtful, and you feel upset reading it. Whereas, like, with Bendis's writing on it, it's like a goofy little gag. And like having your deepest, darkest secrets exposed to the world, and the person won't shut up about it and is pressuring you to tell more people about it. And there's never any follow through where Iceman's like, Gene, that was kind of screwed up what you did just now.
Right, like, hey, maybe, like, stop.
Yeah, and like, again,
Something.
And mind you,
Have more tech.
Exactly. And like, I'm biased on this one fully. I'll admit my bias at the door. But like, hearing someone say, well, maybe I'm bi, and they're like, no, you're full gay. Like, that right there really annoys me. No, you're all gay. You're like, I don't know if you remember this one. In Japan, there was a weird comedian, Hard Gay. I just thought of that when I first read it, like back in like the 2000s. It's like old internet like humor there for you. That's what I thought of. I'm like, this is awful. Like,
Oh God.
And like, okay, so, and one thing that a lot of chuds online would then say was that, oh, well, Jean Grey made Iceman gay because she just planted the thought in his brain, which could be a very interesting thing to discuss, but makes no sense given Marvel's time travel rules. Given how Marvel reality works, if you're plucked from reality, even if you put back immediately where you left off, you're now a separate entity traveling in a parallel but different path from the version diverged from. So whatever was done to young Bobby Drake can't be done to older Bobby Drake. They're two separate people now, essentially. And their timelines are different. But that being said, the idea of a mind controller making someone gay, that could be very well written if told by a queer creator who is sensitive to the issues of conversion camps and all that. But
that would be interesting. But yeah, not these. Not whoever will get that story. Yeah,
it would have to be like you'd have to thread that needle though. Like that would be like you'd have to really get that right, because if you mess that story up, won't just be bad. It will be like really bad.
It'll be catastrophic.
100%.
That's that's the word you were waiting for, because that's exactly what it'll be. Catastrophic.
Exactly.
For you, the fine folks at home reading, and everybody else.
Yeah, there's no way that ends up good. There's no way that could be like that's just not going to work out. You have to do it really well. But Bendis, like he should have. Bendis was, for a time, like he was so quick to add representation that he should have really talked to someone. Like that's where sensitivity readers really come in handy. Like someone to go and say, "Hey, maybe that's not the best way of writing this." Right. And again, I think a lot like with Riri Williams, like with Miles Morales, other writers. I mean, not so much Miles Morales. He was pretty good from the start, but like Riri and like gay Bobby Drake, other writers came in and like ironed out the wrinkles. Like they took it and like ran with it in ways that were really, really good.
Right.
But you can't get over that first. But that
first hurdle.
Rough. Yeah, no, it's rough. Yeah.
Well, the first coming out and the only coming out, at least, if you want to write that kind of story, which I don't think a lot of them really want to touch that again.
Well, the Cena Grace mini does have, if I remember correctly, I think that's where, I forget if that's, actually, maybe I'm wrong. It's either the Bendis series or it's the Cena Grace mini where Iceman comes out to his parents in his, like, division. I forget which one did that, but that was interesting, where, like, adult Iceman tells his parents that he's gay. That's really interesting. But, like, I don't know. I have a lot. Bendis' heart's in the right place with this representation. I just think he needs to talk to someone. He needed to show his scripts to someone else first. Is what I'm getting at. Like he needed to have a sensitivity reader. Like his I don't think any of this is like ill will on his part. I just think he needed to talk to someone first. That's as someone from that. And again, I'm not. Kyla, you can speak to Riri as Black Rep way better than I could as the whitest person on the screen. But but like, okay, so the parents are in the Cena Gray series. Okay, like, but like I know at least with the queer rep that I don't know. you need to talk to someone before he sent that issue out to be illustrated.
Yeah, it's like you gotta understand what points to take with the. At least, no one's telling you to play it out like a funeral. It doesn't have to be super serious, but you gotta tiptoe like that line real fine. And just by having this whole thing could have just been avoided if you just said stop. Drop your pen, walk away, go grab someone in the hallway on their way to the break room and say, "Hey, can you read this?"
Yeah,
that's it.
And again, like, I someone in chat brought up Love, Simon, and like, Okay, so this was again. I keep bringing up last week's video, but like, so if you have, Kyle, you ever read the book Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda?
No, but I wanted to, and then the thing happened.
Yep.
And then
Yep. It's a good book. It's a really good book, but like the movie, like they take out a ton of really upsetting scenes. I was forgetting actually. There's a scene in the book. I didn't mention this in the video because like I felt like I made my point already. Need to give an example, but like there's a scene in the book after he's outed to his entire school where like these kids, they do this really cruel prank on him in public, and like it's just disturbing. Like it's
yeah.
and in the movie they cut it out entirely. No, they don't even reference it. Like they don't even try to adapt it. They're like, we're not even touching that one. But it's like realistic, and it's like even like the kid who outs him like sees this and gets upset. Like even like that's how you know you screwed up. Where like the person who outed you sees the consequences of his actions and realizes, oh crap,
like oh
and like it's realistic. It's sincere. Whereas and it makes you think of this because with Jean Grey, there's no consequences to outing Bobby Drake. There's no consequences to Iceman coming out or being outed or being mind read. It's just it happens, right. And the Scene of Grace comic deals with follow up. That's unique to that issue, unique to that miniseries that's introduced there. There's no sense where Jean Grey stops and goes, "Yeah, that's actually screwed up what I just did." Like if they included that, it would have been so much better. Or like if they got pissed off at Jean because she outed them. Like, right. If there was that frustration, and I'm not saying they have to like have an issue where they like make fun of Jean Grey. I'm just saying like reasonable human frustration. If that was included or consequences, that would be perfect.
Yeah, just some kind of, like tangible, like a fallout from just anything, because it would make it feel, well, once again, that plays into like the tone of how you want to play the scene. And obviously, they wanted to not make it as heavy as it could have been, but
exactly. It's just, I don't like that. I don't like how they did it. I'm getting comments. Yeah. We're getting some comments in chat asking why comic skaters did not like Iceman, the Scene of Grace Iceman storyline, and called him an offensive gay stereotype. The reason is because
they don't know anything.
They know nothing.
They just see clear ice gay man and get mad because that's not the clear ice man I remember from when I was 18 in 1892.
The outing, if they can see a gay character, it's an offensive stereotype for them. I think we should put Iceman in B because like there's some highs and there's some lows. I feel like B is like a good middle ground for that. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say either B or A.
I'll put him as a high B.
A high B, okay.
Because they've unlike a lot of these characters, there's a lot of stuff that has been done well with him recently, but like, especially with everything with Krakoa, which I'm not even gonna touch. Oh. Krakoa's its own thing. Look at that when we get to Mystique. Okay, here's one I feel like neither of us are gonna have a ton to say about this character, Aqualad.
Aqualad.
How do they include Aqualad but not Tim Drake?
That's a good question.
That's how you know I was tired making this.
His guitar over the. You were like, I'm going to make this obscure. I'm going to try to throw in some curveballs in here.
Yeah, so Aqualad. I have nothing to add with Aqualad. Like outside of Young Justice, basically.
Yeah, I would say Young Justice and pretty much every time I see one, when I read one of his comics, it's in the Pride special for that year. Yeah. Like the most recent one. But I do have to say that I guess in terms of him being there and being a pretty popular character for what I've been able to gauge, like people like him. And I'm assuming that they also like his rep. I haven't really seen, like when I see discourse, quote unquote, happening, I rarely see him pop up in like, bad rep conversation. So
Mm.
I'd give him a B based on that.
Yeah, I'm going with B as well, but I'm going to put him under Alan Scott because I feel like his stories in Pride are really interesting, but like for me, Young Justice is what props him up. That is such a good series for the first 2 seasons. And then it's like an okay series for the next two. Like, it's really good until it's just all right. And then
Yeah.
But that being said, though, it's still worth watching. It's just not great. So here's one that I think was inevitable. Harley and Ivy.
Oh.
Because I feel like we have to talk about Harley in media outside the comics, and then Harley and Ivy in the comics.
Yeah, and I feel like especially with Harley, since she wasn't created in the comics, so you all, you want to take into account, I feel like her other media too because of that. She's like a joint venture.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I should also mention is a great video by Lady Emily on Harley and Ivy. If you ever had a chance to watch that, it's really solid.
Yeah, I want to say, see, this is where I am again. I'm between an A and a B. And I give my reasoning for B because there's so many, once again, depending on the author, you can see them kind of trying to undo this relationship a lot. Or, I keep pairing them up together. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
But it kind of goes into it where it's like they're trying to go back or unravel the actual teeth behind the representation. Because if you just tell me like Harley is gay or she's bi or whatever, and you don't show it, then I'm like, well, okay, thanks for nothing. Like, what's the point? And I feel like that's what a few authors, at least from the one, like the one that I remember, it seemed like it. And I'm tired of that. Like, I almost feel like just make it a directive for a year. These two have to be together, if anything, so you can stop trying to take away the visual representation of Harley and Ivy in this case too. I'm talking about both of them.
Yeah, and it's wild too because you compare it to the animated series, which we're not talking about the animated series beyond mentioning it right now. Because if we're just talking about the animated series, S for both of them. That series is great, right. And the way they represent them is excellent. I wouldn't even discuss it. Just put them on S right now. But the problem is the comics in this case, like the way that they. And again, as bisexuals, they're both canonically bi. Right. Regardless of who they're with, you're no less bi if you're with a man. But like, the problem is DC just really wants to separate these two for some strange reason, and they keep doing this cycle where they have a writer who comes in and then they're dating, and then a year later they're broken up again, and like and not only are they broken up, but it's done in like a really cruel way, like the one Harley and Ivy mini, for example,
where it makes it seem like they'll never get together ever again, like this is the last straw. But if the next writer comes in and is like, no, they're going to be together, then they have to justify why the other one hurt the other one so badly. And exactly. It's like, man.
And it just goes back and forth forever. And it's kind of like, it's really confusing. Yeah, and it's not confusing. It's hard to justify a placement for them. Because if I was just going off of the media that I love the most with these characters, it's S. Because it's so, when it's good, it's fantastic and complex. And again, the Harley Quinn cartoon delves so much better into the chemistry between these two characters and their build-up and their relationship and the confusing feelings of sexuality and the uncertainty. That is done so well in that cartoon. Yeah. And the comics just... Again, in chat they mentioned this too. They think that if they're married, it's boring. And if they're a stable relationship is boring for them. It has to be on and off again.
Now look, just because most of the people working for you can't keep a marriage, don't mean that these people are, just do it. Do it.
100%.
It'll probably be better for you and cheaper than going to therapy to talk about commitment issues. Like, just, and
100%.
yeah, it's just that. Because I also want to stress too, like Harley can date guys in the comics and still be bi. Dating a man as like a femme person and you're bi doesn't negate that. It's just the fact that you won't. Okay, so let's say that her and Ivy are broken up. Like there's no other. It's almost like she doesn't exist. Like it's just a complete
Right?
invalidation and like defanging of their relationship at all points, because like you would think, and that's what I mean, like about dulling down her bisexual you know rep, in the terms of like she can't even like come to grips with that or getting used to, um I would assume like maybe because of Joker she might have some hangups dating a guy again, just because there's so many ways to go down it. And I'm also thinking of like Harley
Oh, yeah.
probably doing something like
The
that
Harley,
too.
is that the one that's done by the, oh, what's his name? It's like a Swedish name, right? Like a Swedish,
Oh,
Scandinavian,
I can never
Sweden.
pronounce it, but I know
I can't even say what those letters are in some cases. It's some like, because they have like,
I
the
can never
accents and all.
pronounce it. Yeah, but he does Sunstone.
He's such a talented
Um,
artist. I
yeah,
personally
and
do
I
love his like Lara Croft Wonder Woman crossover art.
oh yeah.
Some good stuff there. Anyway, no, but yeah, as you were saying, I'm sorry.
Oh no, but it's just kind of stuff like that where it's like no mentioning of possible issues that can arise when you start, exploring your sexuality or going back to something that maybe you haven't been like with in a while, stuff like that. But don't nobody want to do that because then that'd be addressing it. And yeah. But
It's rough right there.
it is, and I would just say, I probably will say A.
Yeah,
I'll give him an A.
I'm putting top of A though. But you know what? Actually,
Yeah.
I'll put Harley at S and Poison Ivy at A because I do feel at least like with Harley Quinn, with Poison Ivy, it's a little weirder because like her rep, it's usually her causing the relationship problems in the comics that are like weird. But like
Hmm.
in like with Harley, I think at least there's enough there where her sexuality and her confusion is like front and center
Yeah.
that I think gives me the edge for S. And because again, that TV show, that cartoon is so good.
True. That's very true. Because we are considered. Yep.
Yeah, and that's the thing
Yeah.
too. The
I would say
cartoon is
S.
so good. So much like in the DC comics, I'm putting Harley and Ivy on different wavelengths. Um, okay, so chat's saying you say Stefan Sazik.
That's the guy, and I can never. I feel so bad because I see that man's name all the time, and I can't pronounce it.
You put a S and a T and a J next to each other. I'm gonna struggle. I can barely speak English already.
Let's see. Stepan
Stepan
Sejic.
Sajic.
Sejic.
Stepan Sajic. Okay. So I may say his name in a video at some point, so that's why I gotta figure this out now. I don't want another situation like when my friends make fun of me for like a month for not being able to say what was it? The Warhammer rat race, the Skaven. I said Skaveen, and they have been making fun of me for that for like months ever since, and I can't even blame them. I'm like, I have no retort to that. Yeah, that's a dumb way of pronouncing it. Of course, it's Skaven, not Skaveen. But like, it's like after it's like, oh, this is a Skaven over here. Anyway. Mystique. And I guess Destiny kind of falls into this too. Mystique.
Oh boy.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
See, and only now can I truly say, I'm glad with what they've done with her recently. Chris Claremont wins in the end. And
He got what he wanted.
yeah, he got what he wanted. He wins in the end. But
But no, but what are you talking about, Kyla? They were just good friends who lived together and slept in the same bed.
they were roommates.
They were roommates for like over 100 years potentially. Yeah, no, like so how do we count this? Because unlike a lot of these, from the beginning, she was very clearly, I don't think, definitely not straight, probably not cis.
Right.
But now it's like so much more. Like it's gone beyond just like, oh, at the time it was rough, but now it's good. No. They've gone all the way.
We are at light speed, folks. Ain't no stopping this.
Oh no, Mystique is all in. I love it. No, I especially love how the X-Men movies, all of these movies, you have so many of these, obviously a ton of queer people made the live-action X-Men films.
Right.
One in particular we don't want to mention, but, he is gay, so
yeah,
bears mention. And not one of these people thought that the shape-shifting person who's a man for a good majority of the start of the second movie could possibly not be straight or cis. At no point it crossed their minds.
Nah. Just went right over.
Like, completely over. Of course, Destiny's not even in those movies, so it doesn't even matter, but like, so I think Mystique, I think just for the audacity of the recent Krakoa run,
I would say A.
I think top of A. I think
I was thinking A, because I'm like, just the most recent stuff I'm so glad about. Like, we're just finally, but that kind of goes back to the running theme of a few of the things we were talking about, where you get certain authors that come in and just try to be like, oh, ignore all that.
Mm-hmm.
We gonna move right past it. And it's like, what you talking about? What? And,
oh, they didn't ignore a thing. They remembered everything.
Right, and someone said, "Chris, I got you."
I love it. That was some. They went way in the other direction, and I love that.
Oh, it was amazing.
Anyway, okay, we have a couple more. Then we're going to dive into all the ones I forgot to include, which are numerous because I made this when I was tired. Angela, former angel who hunted Hellspawn, current half sister of Thor.
Oh Lord.
Dating a trans femme angel. Which is interesting. I think really cool. Angela's interesting.
I don't know too much about Angela, so you'll have to fill me in.
So, okay, have you seen Thor Ragnarok?
Oh God, it's been a minute.
Okay, so basically Hela is basically Angela. Is the easiest way of explaining it to you really quickly.
Oh, okay.
So basically Hela's role in that, where she's like a forgotten child of like Odin.
Of Odin.
That's the easy explanation, because the hard explanation involves Neil Gaiman and Todd McFarlane in like a lawsuit, and I don't have the time.
Damn it, Todd!
I don't have the time. I love how I didn't even say who was the one who was guilty, and you knew exactly who was at fault.
The minute you said lawsuit, I'm like, there's only a couple of people, and then you said Todd. I'm like, damn it!
And Neil Gaiman, of all other authors, to get into an argument with any person is rough, but if you're challenging Neil Gaiman, one of the most beloved science fiction and fantasy writers of like the last 30 years, and that's who you pick a fight with.
No.
Anyway,
Oh.
Angela's interesting because, again, she mainly hailed from Spawn initially, which, by the way, in case you couldn't tell, no, she's not Odin's half forgotten daughter in the Spawn universe. She's an angel who hunts Hellspawn and falls in love, attraction, gets close with Spawn. That's the easy way of explaining it. It's a while. It'll take a long time to explain Angela's convoluted life. But, like, I feel like she's interesting, but they've never done enough with her.
Right.
Like, that's the thing. Like, she's a very compelling character. She's interesting. I've always enjoyed Angela, even back when I was still reading Spawn. But, like, even in Spawn, they never did enough with her.
Right.
Yeah.
I could see that. She'd be a pretty, well, she'd be a pretty, like, not, that's not the word I'm looking for, but I guess this is going to be the harsh one. She'd be pretty useless, I think, in the stories that they wanted to tell.
Not
Or
really. They
she'd
do
be
a lot with her. They do a lot with her. And again, I don't want to make this mistake. She's actually really well written. The problem is she's just not in it enough. That's my issue.
to really tell.
Yeah, like, and I forgot. Chat mentioned this too. She was with the Guardians of the Galaxy for a while, but then again, so was Flash Thompson. So, like, at a certain point, like, she's interesting but underutilized. I feel like, but when she's used really well outside of Pride issues, because she's always in the Pride, like, in the big. Here are all of our gay characters. Here's, like, all of them here. But, like,
here's the group shot.
Yeah, she's in the group shots, but, like, she's never, like, center in the story when she could be. But I think a B. I think between Alan Scott and, like, Aqualad, because even though she is really interesting, I feel like they just don't use her enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next two are a bit of a deep cut here. And then we're going to go on to the obvious examples I forgot. So the first one is Wolverine from another dimension where he's the president of Canada and dating Hercules.
Oh,
I love it. And the particular image I chose has, like, we're Canada's super dads.
Canada's super dad.
Actually, just Hercules in general. He's Hercules in any iteration is always bisexual. But then again, that's mythology. I feel bad incorporating Hercules because he's always bi in everything he's in. So yeah, and those who don't know, there's another universe in Marvel where Wolverine is, like, the Prime Minister or President of Canada. I think he's just the President of Canada. I don't think they say Prime Minister. I think it's like they go all out with the goofiness of it.
He changed it to President when he got an office.
I think it's been a minute since I've read it, but I'm pretty sure they don't half-ass it. They go all the way. and he's just making out with Hercules while having, like, the metal that's used for Thor's hammer as his adamantium instead of, like, adamantium.
Oh.
Again, they don't half-ass this. They go all the way.
Oh my god!
I kind of kept it as a joke, but, like, I do love this. This
Amazing. Oh,
I think this is solid S personally.
I
think above Batwoman.
They're Canada's dads. We gotta put them up there.
I don't think there's anywhere else but the top of the list. I don't think anything's gonna beat that.
Are any of y'all politicians? No.
they just go on adventures together, you know, as the leaders of Canada.
Right. Working 2 jobs.
Yeah, he's a single dad. No, he's not a single dad. He's very not single.
2 single dads who work real hard. Love their kids and never stop.
I love it. Okay, so that was easy. Hooded Justice, though, is harder. And I know Hooded Justice is very different in the Watchmen TV show. I'm really referring to Watchmen, the graphic novel, with this one. Which is a little different because it's a little darker there, I feel like.
Yeah.
The implication being that, again, I know they do a lot of stuff with like the sequels to Watchmen and all that, but like he's basically a very repressed, very bigoted individual in the comics, which the show inverts by, if you see the show, you know what I'm talking about. But like, Hooded Justice is kind of tough to talk about because I feel like there is a discussion to be had for the self-hating gay person, like to that level where it becomes bigotry.
Yeah.
The problem is it works really well as like a subtle background character who you just kind of have there and it's like implied and discussed and goes off on that. But the problem is when you make a full story about it, like they did with the follow-ups to Watchmen, where they kind of squander the potential of the narrative. Right. Again, barring the Watchmen TV show, which is very different. The television show takes in a really clever direction that's sophisticated and intelligent and not what they do in the DC comics.
No. I can only imagine those people who watch the show and they were like, I'm going to read the comic. And it's like, baby.
You're going into dark territory. Because in the original Watchmen, the only implication that Hooded Justice is gay is when the comedian makes a comment about how, like, he gets... Well, also there's two implications. There's the Rorschach mad ramblings in his journal that he might have been a homosexual. And there's the comedian making a joke at the Hooded Justice's expense. And both are very offhand. It's hard to even call that representation. It's more just a comment made. But I don't know where I'm going to put Hooded Justice, because I don't think I had a thought with this one. I thought, that'd be interesting.
You just put him in there because you forgot everybody else, but remembered him.
Yeah, I forgot. I put in Hooded Justice, but not Deadpool, Tim Drake, John Kent, or Gwenpool. Or Morph, but we discussed, or Loki, but we discussed those two already.
Yeah, Loki. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I would kind of like, if we're just doing OG Watchmen, I would probably put C.
You think C?
I think C.
Yeah, I'm thinking C as well. I think below Catwoman, because like I don't know if this really counts as like hardcore rep. Okay, so we have the four forgotten members that we have to talk about now. Let's start with Gwenpool, because that's probably the easiest one to discuss, because she's just such a pure soul. Arrow Ace rep right there. She is. I do love that her coming to terms with her sexuality. I think is really beautiful. And there's not a lot of Arrow Ace rep in comics that isn't like dehumanizing in some way.
Yeah, because I think that they kind of like how I forgot who wrote it, said like, oh, they think that being married equals boring. So it's like, oh, being ace equals no relationship ever, which equals no tension, which equals boring. And it's like, wait, what?
Exactly.
That ain't how that works.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's just not. It just feels wrong on so many levels. I'm gonna bring this image over here so we have something with Gwenpool on screen. Yeah, so that's a bad picture. It's so small. This is what I'm talking about. Let me get a better one here. There we go. That's better. Get something reflective of this asexual icon. Like, and again, like, I think this is solid A, because it's what we don't see too often. It's done it's a fairly new character, so it's really built into her characterization. None of it is a retcon, really, because it's more just taking what was already there and just extrapolating it.
Right.
And she's just such a lovely character. Like, it's hard to not. I know people who don't. I know people who get like really upset with Gwenpool, and I'm like, how? Like, how does this character anger you in any capacity?
They just hate fun.
Yeah.
Like just let her have fun. That's what she's there for.
Yeah, and
like,
plus they have Jeff the Land Shark.
yeah, you know what? That alone, if anything, that alone should make you like her because we got Jeff.
She's
and Jeff got his own spinoff, and I love that one.
100%, 100%. Okay, so now we have. Okay, so this one. I feel like we should discuss Deadpool here because he's another discussion. Deadpool is odd. I don't know if I love Deadpool as Pan rep. He's definitely Pan, but like most of the stories with him being his sexuality being explored at all is him annoying someone.
Right.
Like, which I mean is valid. That's not invalid representation. Pansexuals, bisexuals, gay people, lesbians, we all have the capacity to be annoying. It's not saying that. I'm not saying otherwise. But I am saying that like Deadpool is it's a little heavy-handed depending on the writer. Like, on one hand, it'll be like him like sexually harassing Spider-Man the entire issue. Like, Deadpool's and also I think Deadpool's a better character than his narratives are because I think Deadpool is better than a lot of the stories he's in.
Yeah, true.
Like, even the movies, it's like, do you remember the plot of the first Deadpool? Like, does that really stand out to you?
You know what? I kind of remember, but yeah, no, it was really him.
Yeah, like the scenes. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Oh no, it was just the more that I think about it, I'm like, yeah, because he was the highlight of the whole thing.
100%. And like, there's other stories too where like he hits on people and like there's a lot of like some of the I remember there was one. I forget if it was Great Lakes Avengers or not, where he hits on like Big Bertha. I think the character is that Big Bertha the character.
Oh, I think
it's the character.
Big Barda.
Big Barda. I'm thinking of I'm thinking of someone else from DC.
Oh, like
because like, and it's like the joke is like that she's like not attractive and he's not attractive, and that's the joke. And I'm like, that seems a little mean spirited. Like at their
like that ain't funny.
It's just at their expense. It's not like. It doesn't feel like I don't find that funny. I just find it kind of like because like Great Lakes Avengers is really funny usually. That just felt mean and in a way that I didn't like. That rubbed me the wrong way a little bit because I really like Great Lake Avengers, like those characters quite a bit, but like I don't know. Oh, Barda's DC Bertha is there we go. So Barda's I always get those names mixed up because they're so similar sounding, even though the characters are so different.
You know, every time you said Big Bertha, though, I don't know why, but my mind just went to Large Marge.
Oh my god!
And I was like, "What?"
But like again, like that. So like, I feel like Deadpool's sexuality is really interesting when done right, but a lot of writers use it as like a gag and at Deadpool's expense, not necessarily because the situation is funny, but because the idea of Deadpool hitting on someone is funny. And like, that feels mean to me. I don't like that. Even though I love this character, that always bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, especially when you can see what happens when you actually take Deadpool seriously. And I don't mean like take him back to his old origins, you know, of being like just this rough and tumble dude, no laughing, no smiling, no nothing. I mean like just add some gravity to him, his relationships and stuff like that. And you know, they're getting like a few people are getting better at it, but it's still just kind of. I think it's just because it's easier to keep playing him off as like the joke.
I think the best Deadpool stories are the ones, and I think the movies do this really well. Is that the Deadpool when the humor is meant to cope with pain? Like Deadpool is best when he is in a situation that's absolutely horrific and like awful and terrible, and he's making jokes to lighten the mood for himself.
Right.
In contrast with something horrifying. Like the first Deadpool movie has some disturbing body horror in it. And like the humor is at the expense of the situation, not at the expense of Deadpool. Because the humor is the only way he can have power in that situation, and that's effective and good. I think, you know, him being with Spider-Man and like making Spider-Man uncomfortable, that's just makes, I don't find that funny. I just find it uncomfortable. Like it makes me, for a little bit it's funny. Like there's the joke where it's like, oh, this makes, someone's gonna write so many fan fictions about this. But like at a certain point, I'm just like, this just feels unpleasant. Like this just feels mean-spirited in a way that I don't like. But yeah, again, it depends on the writer.
Yeah, it's all about it's all about that kind of like balance of seriousness and humor with Deadpool. And someone said maybe Deadpool Wolverine is going to up that humor.
I hope so.
Well, we can only hope.
Oh, so here's an example right here of a funny bit where you can do the sexuality right here. It's like Spider-Man's hugging Deadpool and Deadpool's hugging him back and then just goes too far with the joke. that's funny. Because it's taking advantage of the scene and diffusing the situation. That's funny, but like some jokes, it's like, let me get the Big Bertha bit, because I feel like I'm hoping I'm not misremembering it, because like I might be misremembering it in my head. That could be a factor, because I remember not liking this scene. It just felt uncomfortable to me. Yeah, no, it's still uncomfortable. I don't like this one. So here's the gag I was thinking. Yeah. And like the joke is like, you know, him hitting on Big Bertha and then like saying like how ugly he is in comparison, and her like puking in response. Like it's just, I don't find that funny. Like it's just kind of like, I mean, maybe I don't know. I just find it kind of depressing.
I get it. And like, even for those who are like, oh, what, you being sensitive, blah, blah, like, no, it's just, even if you want to go down that route and say like, okay, we're going to open ourselves up for those kind of jokes, that's just the most obvious one you can make too. Like, okay, she's big, he's not convinced, like, his face is messed up. And you want to go in here and eat? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's just not a fun, I just don't like that kind of stuff. I think when he's done right, he's done really well. But I don't know. I think Deadpool, because humor is so hit or miss, like if you don't get the joke right, it doesn't land correctly. And I think Deadpool's a great character. I think he's better than most of the stories that he's in. So I think I'm gonna put him in B. I think Deadpool's a solid B tier for me in terms of the ranking of representation.
Yeah.
Because when he's good, he's really good, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like when they get it right, they knock it out of the park. But when I don't feel like they get it like entirely like wrong. It's just kind of low effort. Yeah. That's how I feel about it. It's like a lot of low effort, easy like hits that they get, and it's just kind of like, come on, y'all.
Yeah, they're just not going for. They're just missing the mark, and that's rough because you just miss it. Okay, so I feel like we have to talk about the two big ones, though. The two recent big ones. Tim Drake and John Kent. And then after that, we can, like, cool out jets and, like, chill out a bit before we go sleep. Tim Drake, though. Let's start with him, because I feel like he's the easier of the two to talk about.
Yes.
So I like Tim Drake. I think Tim Drake's the best Robin, though not the best person to have ever been Robin. I think as Robin, Tim Drake is really great. I think I like Dick Grayson more as a character, but I like Dick Grayson as Dick Grayson. Like
not as Robin.
Yeah, I like his arc. I like where he goes with it. But Tim Drake, I think, because he comes with the knowledge that every Batman needs a Robin to anchor him. Like, he is aware of the assignment. And
like he knows what to do.
And here's the thing I want to point out, too, before we move forward. People have thought that Tim Drake was bi since day one. People have been always talking about Tim Drake being bi, but not with Bernard, with like Connor Kent.
Oh yeah,
They have
I
some
forgot
bits.
about that.
They have some bits. Let me find some bits between Connor Kent and and Tim Drake, because they have some moments together where it's like you could cut it with like.
Just like, do we need to leave?
Like there's been some bit. Okay, here we go. Here's what I'm talking about. This image right here is a good one. And I use. Oh, of course, it's the tiniest image in the world. Yeah, you can see that, right?
Yeah.
Let me find a better one. That's heinous. That is absolutely
Get my
terrible.
magnifying glass out and just zoom.
Yeah. Get zoom in, buddy. Zoom in, guys. I can't find that same image blown up, which is. Wait, let me try this one. Hugging. It is very entertaining, isn't it? Just me. Oh, here we go. This might be it. Yeah, this is slightly bigger. Let me zoom in more. That might do it. There we go. It's like, okay, like that. Oh, super chat. Oh, thank you for the super chat. The guy 493. My issue with Tim Drake is DC leaned heavily into the cheating bi trope and broke up him and Steph. Not the first time DC did it too. Cough, Harper, cough. Yes. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
That is... Stephanie Brown was screwed in these stories. And I'll get to that in a second.
Was there.
Stephanie Brown... I love Stephanie Brown. And I do like, ultimately, how they resolve that with Stephanie. But, like... They unfairly they really were unfair with that. That wasn't even like cute. That was just like it actually upsets me how badly they mistreat Stephanie Brown in those comics. And I do like,
I was just gonna say in DC
in general. Like that's the worst for me. I actually do genuinely hate how horribly Stephanie Brown is mistreated in the comics. And like, this is so cute. Like, this stuff is really adorable. I like how they do this, where they have, Stephanie Brown meeting Tim Drake's new boyfriend Bernard, and they're cute and all that sweet, and before this, they had a really good conversation leading up to it. And like, Tim Drake being bi makes sense. I was never shocked when he came out as bi.
Yeah.
What annoys me is how they treated Stephanie Brown. Because there's a lot of good stories you can tell with Stephanie Brown realizing her ex-boyfriend is bi and dating a guy. And that could be very interesting and confusing. And again, Tim Drake can deal with that as well. And I want to emphasize this also. The Webtoons Batman comic, the Gotham Family or whatever, that dealt with Tim Drake so much better than
a lot of them better.
Like that whole thing is the best Bat Family comic to have come out in a while.
I felt so bad though, because I would see people who had never really read Batman before read that and be like, I want to get into Batman. What's some comics?
Don't.
And I'm like, baby, run. Don't do it.
It's not worth the pain.
It is not what you think it is. This is false advertising.
But like, that's some of the best with Tim Drake. And I love him going to like Batwoman and being like, hey, gay stuff, right? How do I do this? And her being like, kind of like the cool gay aunt to Tim Drake.
It's like, you are a gay, correct?
Yeah, you are a gay. Help me out with the gay. Like, that right there bumps Tim Drake up so much. And like, the bits where it really works bump it up. The problem is, though, and this is an issue I have with a lot of these. And again, I'm coming at this from the perspective of a queer person. So I don't want to make it like sound like I'm being angry about any of this, because I think ultimately it is a good thing.
Mhm.
And I think Tim Drake being bi, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem I have, and I think there's actually a lot of good with it, actually. My problem with it is the stories they tell and how little of a role Bernard plays in any of the stories with them dating. Like, Tim Drake has
You
always
know what?
formed
You're
very
right.
strong relationships with the people he cares about in comics. It's one of the things I like about him so much. And so, like, when Stephanie Brown and him were dating, it's a really dynamic, complicated relationship with a lot of ups and downs. The fact that the relationship's so interesting is the fact I'm referencing Stephanie Brown more when Tim Drake is dating Bernard than I am referencing Bernard. He's just such a nothing character. He's
Yeah.
he's not as bad as John Kent's boyfriend, whose name eludes me.
Oh my God. They just kind of. But yeah. Before we get on to that, but yeah, you're right. Now that I think about it, it's kind of like they don't know what to. Well, it's like if you don't know how to write this kind of relationship, get somebody who does.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are thousands, probably billion, like millions, probably a billion, like queer writers
Exactly.
who you can go to be like, hey, do you want to write this story for us? We are at that experience with same-sex relationships, even though they're both. Even though he's bi, he is still in a same-sex relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's like can you help us out with this?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And the thing that's so
Thanks.
frustrating is there's so many ways you could take it in a way that's interesting and dynamic and funny and clever. Have him fight with Tim Drake more often. They did fight for a little bit. Have him be like part of the Bat family in some way, or make him involved and make him be like the guy in the chair. Make him involved in crime fighting. He's so
Right.
tertiary to the main story around Tim Drake. And like as a bisexual, Tim Drake is fine. That's not the problem. The problem is his boyfriend sucks. That's the issue here. Tim Drake's fine. Bernard's just boring. Like he's just like and like his name's Bernard. Okay, like that's not. I can't judge anyone for being named Bernard. I'm sure there's a lot of nice Bernards, but like the name doesn't even sound particularly like interesting. He sounds like the guy in the background of a shot. Like
Background of a shot.
like yeah. And it's like it's not even like he's just a civilian. Vicky Vale's a civilian that they do interesting stuff with her on occasion.
Yeah.
Alfred's a civilian.
Damn.
They do cool things with Alfred. He's just boring.
Damn. I didn't even think about Vicky Vale. You got a point.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not sure if you're watching My Adventures with Superman, but Batman's not even in that show and they're doing stuff with Vicky Vale that's interesting. Like, they've used that character so well in other media, but Bernard's just kind of like, he's the guy who Tim's with. Oh, cool. Majin Gojira, thank you for the super chat. The main writer of the Tim Bernard relationship also made that awful Young Justice miniseries. It was doomed from the start, and I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh God. Who was it? Because I don't think
Oh.
I think I know.
I know the.
My memory is crummy.
Oh, yeah, that was Bernard
Who made that?
writer. That was okay. Let me get the name of this guy because I know you're talking about it. I just forget the guy's name. Again, problem also is this is it's been a while. Okay, I'm gonna cheat, just go on Wikipedia and find this answer because I'm like I listen. I'm running on 3 hours of sleep, so this is what you're gonna get. This is what you get
we're
when
gonna
you're
have
like,
to wrap up soon
it's
so you can go to bed, Mister.
Oh, it's Megan Fitzmartin.
Megan Fitzmartin.
Yeah. Yeah, Megan Fitzmartin. Let me see. Let me get that name. So Megan Fitzmartin. So Megan Fitzmartin. She did, and I'm sure she's nice. She's worked on a lot of Tim Drake. Like, oh
Oh no.
no.
Oh,
That
what
can't
is?
be. I hope that's not correct.
It's not true.
Oh
It's
no.
impossible.
Oh, oh no.
Oh
Oh
God, what?
god. So I looked up her IMDb. Um, so she's worked in a couple animated DC movies.
Okay.
Uh, so guess there's no beating around this bush. I'm just gonna bring it over.
Oh no!
Right?
Oh
Right?
no!
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah. Listen. Okay. I'm sure she's a lovely person. I'm not gonna. This is all just purely about her work. I didn't like this movie very much.
Oh, who would think to even do this? What is?
And now again, she was hired as the writer, so she did not conceive of this idea. This was a mandate from the studio. I don't want to say she came up with this idea. She's had to write the script. Let's put the blame on Warner Brothers because they did everyone dirty. There is no way this could ever turn out good. Like, there's just no way you can ever make this good. This is just not.
Yeah.
There's no salvaging this.
No, blame David Zaslav.
Exactly. And Rooster Teeth, who are no longer around, so you can blame them.
Blame the ghost of Rooster Teeth.
They are, but like this is, yeah, no, that makes sense. And even the Ruby fans don't like this movie. I'm not necessarily a Ruby fan. I think Ruby's like a miss. I think after Monty Ohm passed away, Ruby became more of a shadow of itself.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you really can't do anything about that. That was a horrible tragedy. Monty Ohm, I think, was a brilliant animator.
He was fantastic.
Oh yeah, I think Ruby was a dumb idea in terms of storylines, but I think his concept for it is solid. It's all style, no substance. If that's what you go in for, that's perfect. He got style perfectly. Problem is, though, you don't combine that with Justice League.
God.
Okay. Everything's coming together now. This all makes sense.
Oh God. All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, Tim Drake. I love Tim Drake. I think he's great. I have no problem whatsoever with Tim Drake being bi. I think he's fine as a bisexual. I just don't like his boyfriend. That's what it comes down to. That's really all the issues I have.
Like, get a new boyfriend and we'll bump you up a tier.
Or make Bernard interesting. There's so many ways you can make that interesting.
Oh, what if that becomes like a plot point? Like, Tim sits down one day and realizes he doesn't know jack about Bernard.
But that's what the Gotham that's what the Webtoons comic kind of did, where he's like, I'm clueless. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. And they're like, have you talked to him? I'm like, no, of course not.
I mean, but we can get it for real and have it be canon instead of our nice little side hors d'oeuvre.
Yeah, like that's yeah. So I think okay. So here's my ranking. Tim Drake's a solid B in the bisexual department. A lot of potential here, pretty good. His boyfriend's is an F. I'm sorry. I'll be generous. I'll put him next to Daken. I'll put Denard next to Daken.
That is generous.
Here you go.
Just left him in an F.
Here's a weird question. Do you believe modern gaming influencers are Bonapartists and imperialistic, wanting gaming to be easy and profitable and telling gamers to hate MTX and Battle Pass? That's a complicated question. I think a lot of influencers in general will kind of I think some are very earnest and speak their mind on any given matter. I think others just want to rile up people and get the grift going. But that's a complicated answer. I really can't answer in like a short little piece. Oh, the guy 493 is saying what everyone else is thinking. Tim, Connor, Steph, Cass, Polycule.
Yeah.
Yeah, get Tim and Connor Kent together. That's the first solution. That should have been your first thought with all this. Get Steph in there because she deserves it. She deserves some love. And Steph and Cass have some good chemistry too, so put them together too. Yeah, put them all together. That would be the Polycule people want to see. Like, honestly, DC, just treat Stephanie Brown kindly. She's such a sweet angel and deserves, like, affection and love. She does not deserve to be, like, tortured by you guys for the last 20 years of comics.
I was going to say, that's probably step one. We just got to make sure they give her a break before we can even get up to this.
Yeah, just stop tormenting Stephanie Brown. Like, please. At this point, we're begging you. Like, it's getting ridiculous. It's been decades of it. The only break she gets is when she no longer exists.
Oh, God, that poor girl.
All right, so I guess it's time to talk about the last one of the night, and that's going to be John Kent. Who is... Now, John Kent, his comic is really good. I should say it right now. I think that the Son of Kal-El is a really good comic. I recommend reading it. But everyone knows this is the only thing people were talking about for the longest time with anything involving John Kent. And like, so at least Jay, John Kent's boyfriend, is interesting. He's like a reporter. He does stuff. He's reporting on like I don't know, what was it again? Global warming, I think, was the big thing they were talking about, like him dealing with climate change. And it's a good and you know what? He looks more interesting than Bernard already. He's already more interesting.
He has a distinct style.
You can point him out in a crowd. That it goes a long way. And like, they have a good chemistry. I think John Kent's a fine character. I personally wish he stayed a kid.
I was about to say that. Yeah, that was my thing. It was like, oh, why did y'all do this? I know why, but you shouldn't have did it. Like, just leave him as
and I find it very funny because the big thing they were saying for years was, why do they have to make all these established characters gay? Just make your own character and make him gay or her gay, whatever. And like, that's what John Kent is.
Oh, they always do that though, and then they get mad when you do something with them. Like, hey, wait a minute, like you're not supposed to do that.
Exactly.
It's not supposed to be how it is. Blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Like, it's just shut up. Y'all weren't even reading that book, no ways.
Yeah, and I love especially, and again, this ties in with the video that's coming out on Friday, which is going to be a history of queer themes in comic books, superhero comics, etc. I include a clip from Fox News' favorite Superman, Dean Cain, talking about when this happened, and he just is such a blowhard. He sucks. I really can't. I
withered his brain away.
I really don't like that man. He is.
Oh,
God. But like, and again, like the thing there is, John Kent coming out as bisexual is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with any of the stories with John Kent as bisexual. And I think a lot of his stories are really good and compelling. and
Mm-hmm.
his boyfriend is actually relevant in the plot, unlike Bernard. Like, there's work that's been done here, and I think initially
Yeah.
there was some doubts, thinking, okay, it's Bernard 2.0. He's gonna be boring again, and he wasn't particularly interesting when it first started. But they've done a lot of good stuff there. I think.
Yeah.
I think the comic is doing really good. I've not caught up with it or recent stuff, but what I read was pretty solid.
Yeah, from what I remember reading, which I think was I think that might have been the time I picked it back up because I was kind of still mad about the aging up of
Yeah.
I was just like, man, y'all okay, whatever. And I left it alone, and then I heard this, and I was like, oh well, let me like see it, and thought I'd support. Because of course, just seeing that headline, all the reactionaries just took off, and yeah. But reading it, and yeah, you can see the development over time because it seems like they really want. Well, they want this relationship to be substantial. They just don't want to pair him with somebody who you never see, thus kind of downplaying the relationship. And I feel also the showing of, like, hey, they're in this queer relationship. So I like the fact that they're actually like giving him some teeth, like, some structure.
Exactly. But there's something else about John Kent coming out that I think is really great that we don't talk enough about and happens surprisingly infrequently in comics, and that's this one bit. That his dad actually like loves him regardless. Like that is
Oh yeah.
that like not even like not a second of hesitancy, just pure affection. Like that is for these stories, especially comics, because comics, like, for whatever reason, they love the parents either being dead or being miserable or hating their kids.
True. Oh my god. It's
Like,
true.
there's no middle ground. They're either miserable or they're dead. And even Tim Drake, someone who for a while his dad was like a relevant character in the story and was all interesting, even his dad gets killed horribly and upsettingly in a really upsetting story. But like, and I guess you can say Batman's his dad now, but like, you don't need to do that to every single person's kid. But like, Superman just loves his son, and that's really nice. Like, it's just really pleasant to see that kind of loving support.
Yeah, and you would, well, you know what, too? This is probably a good way to weed out the really nonsense people who claim to be like fans, because if you expected Clark to be anything but supportive, are you truly like, have you truly read Superman? Do you truly know him?
Yeah, exactly. Like exactly. There's never a single doubt that Superman would like love his son unconditionally. He's Superman. He is the best of us. And it's interesting how like, and again, Superman's fought bigotry since the beginning with the whole Superman smashes the Klan thing. But like,
Right.
like he's always been like at the pioneer of acceptance and love. So it's like there was never any doubt in my mind that he would love his son, and it's just good to see that on the page, because
Right.
even though obviously he's going to, like, it's just still nice to see it because it's so rarely done. Even with like Iceman, they had to like fight tooth and nail at the parents to accept that Iceman was gay. Like, Constantine definitely hasn't spoken to his parents because that whole thing. But like, this, it's like he can go to his dad and like get like emotional support, and that's just nice. It's just nice.
Right.
So I think, and it's important to see it. It really is, and it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel commercial. It doesn't feel hallmarky. It just feels like completely like a dad loving his son and accepting it, and that's just so wonderful.
It's genuine. Yeah, it's genuine.
Yeah. And that's why I think John Kent gets an A, I think, in the ranking above Tim Drake, because of moments like this, where you see like, because so much of these discussions, it's discussions of the relationship dynamics. It's not a relationship discussion of identity. In the way that other stuff, I think it's nice. I think it's really, and it's good to see that kind of stuff, because even though it seems so obvious, it's very uncommon. Outside of America Chavez, who has her two lesbian moms.
Right.
But that's different, because they're also gay, so they're all on the same wavelength. It's not the same thing. So yeah, I think that's the ranking, even though I forgot like several characters in here. If anyone wants us to really say a character, you can leave a super chat and tell us to, but I think we're going to start wrapping up right now.
Yeah, so this one can go to bed, get some sleep. Longer than 3 hours.
I've barely slept for the last 3 days finishing this video. It's okay, we're seeing Bruce Wayne on here. I'll answer that one. You don't have to leave super chat for Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is just he's Bruce Wayne.
I was gonna say he is.
he's married to his job. That's not the same thing as being gay. He's married to his duties. That's not the same thing.
Although I will admit to be a fan of Superbat. I think that'd be really cute. Just because I like Golden Retriever with a gothic, sad, angry personality. I like that.
You see, I dig that too. I like that also.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going with Carolina and Nico from the Runaways. But like, and again, like, I also think it's worth mentioning that I also love Catwoman and Batman. I think I've said this before. I think Batman Hush distills the Catwoman Batman dynamic so well, and it sucks that storyline is mainly just like in isolation with their relationship and not like. And I don't enjoy the whole Batman marrying Catwoman storyline where it's like the will they won't they, even when engaged. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that. But yeah, no. So that's the ranking. I think that we all agree that the best is gay dad Wolverine with Hercules as president of Canada. And I guess Batwoman's a distant second. I don't know. Batwoman, you did deal with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. But are you the president of Canada with Hercules?
Right. Like, but are you the president of Canada?
I don't think so, Batwoman.
Like, so can you truly be the best? No.
I know. And some people mentioning Valkyrie as well. I think that's worth mentioning is probably Marvel's most prominent, the MCU's most prominent queer character.
Yeah.
That's cool. But that's entirely due to Tessa Thompson, like, pushing for that. Like, that's not because of Marvel being, the MCU being
aggressive.
Being aggressive. It's purely Tessa Thompson willing that into existence. 100%. But yeah, no.
Yeah,
so, and of course, Morph, who I feel like we could only really talk about X-Men 97 if we mention Morph.
Yeah, given the depiction now.
Yeah, because Morph is like entirely. People are saying Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is married to money. He's not. He's married to his ego. That's all Lex Luthor is. Except for the time
loves Lex.
Except for the time he open mouth kissed Amanda Waller, and Amanda Waller decided to sentence him to death. and then she made her mission to kill him at that moment, and from that moment on. Which is the most Amanda Waller-y thing I've ever heard anyone say Amanda Waller has ever done. Also, Amanda Waller is, I think, hot take, Amanda Waller is more intimidating than Lex Luthor ever could be.
Oh, definitely.
Because like Lex Luthor, he can play. It's a joke sometimes with him. Amanda Waller, if she gets pissed off at you, you are dead.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there's nothing else. You can't escape. You may escape today or tomorrow, but it's only a matter of time.
Next thing you know, yeah, you think you're safe, and then that's it.
Yeah, she will get you. Actually, she's the scariest part of the My Adventures with Superman, that show. Like she's Like that show's cute for the most part, but whenever she shows up, you're like, oh, she's gonna kill someone, isn't she?
Like, oh, this is the serious part of the show. We gotta pay it.
There's a scene where she intimidates a character by serving him coffee. Like, she just gives him coffee, and the way she does it is like a complete power move.
Honestly, I thought she poisoned it. I was like, oh god.
No, just coffee. It's just coffee. There's no poison. It's
shockingly.
Oh, Wonder Woman. We didn't mention Wonder Woman at all.
Oh.
You mean the time where she kissed? Okay, so Wonder Woman's interesting. Wonder Woman is interesting because I don't know how I feel about any of it. Because, like, a lot of it was for a while teased, but it's very rarely openly shown. Like,
right.
It's very, it's, I don't know. I don't think, okay, actually, I was looking for an image to bring up on screen. This is pretty gay. This is peak Wonder Woman bisexuality right here. This is probably the gayest scene Wonder Woman has ever been in. Yeah, and she is bi. I think she is canonically bi, Wonder Woman. But, like, I feel like,
because it looks like, I know that she's probably like holding onto her shoulder, but that straight up looks like she's caressing her hair.
Oh yeah, 100%. And honestly, it's a nice wig that Batwoman has. I do love that wig. But, like, canonically, she's only had a few I mean, granted, canonically, it's still, it's still canon. She is bi. In Earth 1 especially, she's bi. The Earth 1 series is a really good job going into that. But, like, at the same time, I think that my frustration with Wonder Woman being bi is that I wish more writers would discuss that.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's a very obvious example of her being bi, and a character you could really explore that with, who's been there since the beginning, and that's Minerva. That's the cheetah.
Yeah, I was gonna say
their chemistry can sometimes be really intense. Like, it's like, you always shipping villains is always a thing. Like, you always say, oh, their chemistry is so good they might as well be dating. But, like, the cheetah is, like, especially, like,
honestly, that'd probably be perfect.
Yeah, and I know she's with Steve Trevor, and that's got to be a thing. But, like, you know, still, I don't know.
I was like, does it though? Does it?
Because Steve Trevor is kind of boring.
Right, like, once again, like, if your significant other is about as dimensional as the piece of paper that you're drawing on, we're gonna.
It's funny that Steve Trevor was most interesting when Chris Pine was playing him, because it was Chris Pine, not because of Steve Trevor. It's because of Chris Pine, who is consistently. And by the way, Chris Pine very famously does not have a cell phone and is completely disconnected from, like, half of what's going on in the world.
Oh, that's why he's looking like the dude.
Yeah, he looks like the dude. Honestly, I once heard someone say they were in a college university class for writing women's erotica, and that Chris Pine took the course, and they were, like, sharing women's erotica in class. Apparently, he writes really good women's erotica. like empathetic, really, like, insightful,
beautiful words.
Which I'm like, that's he's ascended the ranks of Chrisdom very quickly. Is what I'm saying.
He is top Chris on the mountain.
Yeah,
no one
easily.
can tough.
And even if he loses the rank, who's going to tell him? He has no cell phone. How are you going to tell him to come down? You can't call him. You got to climb the mountain up to after him. You can't do that. What's Chris Evans going to do? Mountain climb up to that level?
Right, like, I didn't hear all that, so I'm not I'm not following.
He's great. I love Chris Pine. He's fantastic. Anyway, I think we're going to wrap it up now because I am running off of 3 hours of sleep over the course of 3 days. So,
go to bed.
Couple last minute things to clean up. First off, Kyla, going to be on your stream on Thursday. I'm going to post a link to that when it comes out. So, you'll hear more of me later this week.
Yes.
I cut you off there.
Oh, I was just gonna say yes. We will be playing. Y'all hear it first. We'll be playing Monster Prom, because it is Pride Month, and Monster Prom has probably been the most diverse and fun dating game that I've played in a long time. So looking forward to that.
That'd be really a lot of fun. Then on Friday, it's gonna be my longest video yet that I have spent truly sleepless nights editing. I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping it's well received. Because, and if it's not well received, well, I'll still work on something next week. So who cares? But I'm hoping you'll like it because I put a lot of work into it. All joking aside. And it's going to be focused on the queer history of superheroes. There's a bunch of interviews with some faces you may recognize, some you probably don't. All very, very smart people who know a thing or two about comics. And yeah, that's all I gotta say right now because I'm physically running out of steam. Kyla, thank you so much for joining us. Where can anyone find you, Kyla, in case they want to see you after this?
Well, obviously, I'm on YouTube. You can follow me there. I'm at Kyla T pretty much everywhere online, Instagram. Oh, I'm also on Kara now, which is the artist app. It's not strictly for artists, but a lot of artists are moving over there because of Instagram's new AI thing. Yeah. But I'm also on Blue Sky, pretty much everywhere. The only thing is that if you find me on Twitter, I'm not as active on there because Twitter has gone to complete hell. And I abandoned ship.
I, however, have not abandoned ship, probably for my own detriment. So I will. If you find me on Twitter, you'll see me probably arguing with someone. For fun, usually. I think they take it way more seriously than I do. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. If you're watching this after the fact, thank you for sticking out with us for so long. Tune in on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. It'll be fun, hopefully. And if not, then, what are you going to do? Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right.